Chapter 51. Li Chengfeng originally wanted to contact the science baby duo and ask them to think of a solution. But unexpectedly, Phil Coulson contacted Tony Stark to be on the safe side. "Aren't you dating Lois at the Met?" "I didn't expect Phil Coulson to just shake this dude over. It's true, the FBI has a good habit of calling in people when something happens. After all, the FBI's biggest advantage right now is that it has a large number of people. Aren't you hanging out with Phil Coulson as well? Phil Coulson called you over with just one phone call. I just think it's easier to communicate with a bald guy in the front than a completely bald black egg," Tony Stark said jokingly, and then his voice became serious. "Miss Hacker sent the audio file when she was escaping just now. I'm working with Phil Coulson's 2 science kids on how to remove the centipede. Adrenaline. Emotional instability causes adrenaline to surge, which will accelerate the violent reaction of the stitched version of Extremis in the centipede." Li Chengfeng said this and took a look at Mike Peterson, whose orange-red veins were lighting up again. He knew he couldn't hesitate any longer, so he directly opened the portal and stepped in with Mike Peterson. "Li. Shit." Tony Stark, who was just talking to Li Chengfeng on the communicator, turned around and was so scared that he burst into swearing when he was seen by Li Chengfeng, who appeared directly in front of him. "You are so kind. You brought this humanoid thermobaric bomb directly to the Air Command Center. Are you planning to send your entire team to the west? The destination of the portal is the laboratory above Phil Coulson's team's airborne command center. At the moment, there are only 2 science babes, Fitz and Gemma, plus the big foreign aide Tony Stark." While turning on the green light to transform, Li Chengfeng took the time to say something to Tony Stark. "What nonsense! I can take him to a deserted place, but even if you come up with a solution, can you get there in time?" Then, barriers formed by the green light of will locked Mike Peterson inside layer by layer. He definitely would not joke about the lives of his own people. Under the barrier of the green light of will, he was absolutely sure that not even a trace of the explosion would escape. From the beginning, the difficulty of this matter has been to save Mike Peterson's life. "Fitz and Gemma, now's your chance. Oh my god, listen, his emotions are related to radiation metabolism. All methods of calming his emotions can only delay the time of self-destruction." Fitz was a little at a loss. It was the first time he had really encountered such a crisis. "Don't repeat the information I already know." Li Chengfeng took a deep breath, and then used a calm voice to guide the 2 obviously panicked science babies. "Don't be afraid, I can guarantee that even if he explodes, it will not endanger everyone present. Since it is related to emotions and adrenaline, let him fake his death." "Didn't you design a good night gun?" "Yes." Gemma immediately took the prototype of the good night gun from the side, but the power is still not adjusted well. "What a genius design. Leave the rest to me." Tony Stark took the good night gun, and through Jarvis's scan, the design of the good night gun and the composition list of the bullets instantly appeared in front of his eyes. To achieve perfect suspended animation, your bullets need less paralysis and more rigor mortis. Adding some less toxic sea snake venom should be enough to achieve the ideal level. There is ready-made sea snake toxin in the laboratory." Gemma immediately took out a portion of sea snake venom from her biological experiment area, but this sea snake venom is too toxic and needs to be diluted. "Diluted 20 times. No. 50 times. The effect of the bullets you made before is very close. You only need to make some minor adjustments to achieve the desired effect." Tony Stark made a prompt decision. Li Chengfeng looked at the scene in front of him and nodded slightly. Phil Coulson is such a great shaker. Although according to the original plot of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent, the scientific baby duo can successfully develop a perfect suspended animation injection within 2 hours. But now, both Sky's story and the characters in the team have changed because of this hybrid universe. Li Chengfeng was not sure whether Fitz and Gemma in this universe could succeed in the research and development even with his own hints. After all, the original plot only stated that the injection came from the bullet of the good night gun, but it did not specify what kind of adjustments and research were required to achieve success. Also, he wasn't sure if Mike Peterson could last as long as in the original plot. Fortunately, with the help of Tony Stark, a scientist who is almost at the top of humanity at this stage, the research and development time has been greatly shortened. Fitz and Gemma immediately started to act as requested. Gemma Simmons was responsible for diluting the snake venom and began to make injections. Fitz took into consideration that Mike Peterson would be physically strengthened under the strengthening of the centipede, so he changed the bullet to a percussion type, which would be released and dissolved the moment it touched the skin, and enter the body fluid circulation through the body surface. Li Chengfeng originally wanted to say that he could actually give the injection to him. Given the difference in strength between him and Mike Peterson, he could just stuff the injection directly into the other's mouth. But at this time, we should not undermine the self-confidence and self-awareness of young people. Tony Stark obviously thought the same thing, so he didn't make any suggestions. After Li Chengfeng's initial strong suppression, although Mike Peterson's emotions were still unstable, he was wrapped in layers of green light barriers of wool and could do nothing but watch everything around him. After a few minutes of silence, Mike Peterson finally spoke. "They call you Li? Are you the one who has the final say?" "Yes, at this critical moment I have the final say over everything on the scene and I take full responsibility." "Is that so? Then can you let the FBI take good care of my son?" "If you ask me, it's better for the father to take care of the child himself, right? And you don't have to scare yourself. Our team has gathered the best FBI experts and we can definitely solve this problem in your hand. So before that, I want to ask you a question." Mike Peterson clenched his teeth and tried not to get too excited. Then he nodded laboriously, indicating his agreement. So Li Chengfeng pulled a chair from the laboratory, sat on it, and began to communicate with Mike Peterson in the tone of an interviewer. "A man named Ben Parker once said that with great ability comes great responsibility. Now that you have power, can you bear the responsibility behind the power and the consequences of gaining power? Although you have many powers beyond human limits, does your son have them? Can you guarantee to stay by your son's side at all times? What if someone controlled you by kidnapping your son and made you do bad things? As far as I know, there is a super criminal called Acute Eyes who specializes in this kind of thing. Do you know how he will squeeze your value? First, he will implant an electronic eye into the target to monitor the target and issue instructions to control its behavior. After you complete a few tasks for him and your limbs are broken, he will also make you an experimental receptor for those mechanical enhancement components." Every word Li Chengfeng said made Mike Peterson break out in a cold sweat and his breathing became more rapid. "I don't understand anything you said. I only know that with the centipede, I can become strong. I can even do the work of 10 people in the factory. This will allow me to bring a better life to my family. So, you're willing to do it even if it means hurting your son?" Li Chengfeng's last question left Mike Peterson confused and silent. "I know that making a choice is always difficult." Li Chengfeng patted the barrier formed by the green light of wool, "But in life, you must make a choice before you can take the next step. I need to protect my family's livelihood. Don't worry about that. Even if the centipede is successfully removed, the strengthening of your body is a foregone conclusion. But it will degenerate to about 30% of its current state over time. There are few ordinary humans who can compare with you. And you are also a victim of an evil organization. We in the FBI also have corresponding compensation measures." Mike Peterson finally broke free from the two extreme emotions of overexcitement and resentment. After making the decision to give up the power of centipede, it was as if the biggest burden in my heart had been put down. Just like Li Chengfeng said, no matter what, you have to make a choice before you can take the next step. "Li, the power you possess is so terrifying, but why can you be so calm?" "That's probably because..." Li Chengfeng thought for a while, and finally spread his hands helplessly. "I was born to be a monster that controls power." Under the pressure of time, although the science baby duo seemed a little panicked at the beginning, their hands were always very steady, and they did not make any mistakes while speeding up. 10 minutes later, Phil Coulson arrived at the lab with the rest of the team, including Sky and Mike Peterson's son. "Li. Tony. What's going on? It's the last step." As Li Chengfeng was speaking, Fitz pushed the bullet made of injection into the magazine, then raised the gun with trembling hands and aimed it at Mike Peterson in the barrier. "Agent Li, please remove the barrier." Li Chengfeng smiled and took the goodnight gun from him. "You've done a great job." The young man's hands were shaking like Parkinson's disease, and Li Chengfeng didn't dare let him fire the shot. "If I miss the first shot and then stimulate Mike Peterson to the point of exploding, then all my efforts would be in vain." Okay. Fitz nodded, finally breathing a sigh of relief. But there was a hint of loss between his brows. Phil Coulson saw all of this. He knew that Fitz and Gemma were not the type who just wanted to bury their heads in research. The destination for such people should be the confidential research institute called Sandbox. And both of them dream of becoming excellent field agents. That's why Phil Coulson chose them. So he patted Fitz and Gemma on the shoulders and said with a smile, "You are still a long way from becoming a qualified field agent. Come on, Sky. The three of you, do your best." Chapter 52. The next thing is very simple. Li Chengfeng removed the barrier of green light of wool, and then shot Mike Peterson in the neck. Location of the median vein. Then the injection took effect and Mike Peterson fell stiffly to the ground. Correspondingly, the extremely unstable orange-red color with destructive energy flowing in the blood vessels slowly faded, and was replaced by the purple-blue color of the injection. Li Chengfeng put away his good-night gun in a very cool manner, then walked out of the Air Command Center arm in arm with Tony Stark. All that remained was to neutralize the mixture in the centipede and then completely dismantle it. Fitz and Gemma started working on it right away. Sky followed in a rather servile manner. "Li, you succeeded." "I will definitely succeed, but now is the time to kiss my A. I wouldn't mind just spanking your butt if you need me to, that's definitely my favorite shape." Li Chengfeng rolled his eyes. He is really worthy of being an orphan who grew up struggling in society. He is so fierce. "You are Sky, right? The hacker lady who sent the message back." Tony Stark nodded slightly to Sky. "I heard that your skills are quite good and you can fool the entire communications department of the FBI. We at Stark Industries really need outstanding talents like you to join us. Would you consider it?" Before Sky could answer, a voice immediately dispelled Tony Stark's thoughts. "Tony, please don't poach people in front of me, okay?" Although Sky has some controversial behaviors, at least 1/5 of the agents in the FBI have similar experiences, so after resolving these minor issues, she will still be a reserve agent in our FBI. Phil Coulson followed out holding the hand of Mike Peterson's son and just happened to catch Tony Stark's poaching behavior. Then he got into a bright red Chevrolet antique car. Oh, and he named the car Laura. "Sky, come with me to take Mr. Mike Peterson's son to his aunt's house." Phil Coulson started the car and continued to say to Sky, "I can talk to you more about Lee on the way." "Okay." Sky sat on it without any hesitation. After watching Laura turn a corner and disappear on a fork in the road not far away, Tony Stark hooked his arm around Li Chengfeng's shoulder and said he wanted to go for a drink. Originally Li Chengfeng wanted to find a bar, but Stark took him directly back to the Stark building in New York. By the way, the means of transportation is a Quinjet that Stark hacked through Jarvis and obtained the activation code. "Believe me, Nick Fury will call you and scold you in a moment." Li Chengfeng stretched out while sitting on the wide sofa. This office on the top floor of the Stark building was really spacious enough. The Quinjet was parked so majestically on the huge amounts of terrace. "Who told that stingy Nick Fury not to sell me one? I offered him double the price but he refused. But I just want to use it for a while, and that's not even allowed. Who knows, Nick Fury has been so stingy lately. When I ask him for funding, he always makes excuses and only gives me a few dollars in the end. He is so stingy. Why don't you just switch jobs and come to me, the security director of Stark Industries? I can offer you an annual salary of 10 million plus 2% of the equity." After a while, Tony Stark shifted his target of poaching from Sky to Li Chengfeng. Li Chengfeng was too lazy to pay attention to Tony Stark. Instead, he walked towards Pepper Potts, who came in with a bottle of red wine, stretched out his hand, bent down, and gave her a perfect and gentlemanly kiss on the hand. "I've heard a lot about you, Ms. Pepper." Li Chengfeng stood up and chatted with little Pepper. "Tony is a really difficult man, isn't he? You clever men are fickle animals." "Ah ha 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 ha, I feel embarrassed when you praise me like that." "Who praised you?" Stark felt uncomfortable looking at the hand kiss. "It's obviously the first time I meet Pepper, don't pretend to be so familiar with her." Li Chengfeng grinned evilly in his heart. Tony Stark and Pepper Potts seem to be a promising pairing for the movie. "Don't talk about me. Haven't you been staying in Metropolis recently? I heard that you even bought shares in the Daily Planet just to pursue the famous reporter Lois." "Oh, don't mention it. I've given up pursuing Lois," Tony Stark said with a bitter face, his mustache drooping. "I've been rejected 12 times in a row. It seems that Lois is really not interested in the handsome Tony Stark. Tisk, can you be more narcissistic?" Li Chengfeng curled his lips and said, "You're a sensible boy. If you give up after chasing for a while and find that the other party has not responded, but you continue to persist in pestering, you might be hit by the iron fist of the big guy from Kansas. But I have gained a lot during my time in Metropolis. My shares in Daily Planet have appreciated by 10% in such a short period of time. That's more than 50 million. In this information age, investing in the media industry is a sure win. Li Chengfeng was ashamed. It was indeed time for this old guy to make money. Invest in anything and make money. Why not try the Tibetan secret oil removal method? After Li Chengfeng chatted with Tony Stark and Pepper and drank a few glasses, they finally got to the point. Li, actually, after I received the call from Phil Coulson, I rushed over immediately. Besides my friendship with you and Phil Coulson, more importantly, Phil Coulson mentioned that this incident was related to extremists. Oh? Are you interested in this? It's not me who is interested, but the FBI. Tony Stark drank the wine in his glass and continued, when I was in Metropolis some time ago, a high-level FBI agent often visited me in order to seek cooperation with Stark Industries on projects, and even to directly purchase shares in Stark Group at a high price. Li Chengfeng frowned. Something is wrong. Based on the relationship between Tony Stark, Nick Fury and Phil Coulson, if the FBI really wants to further cooperate with Stark Industries, it would take Nick Fury authorizing Phil Coulson or even Nick Fury himself to come and negotiate. Tony Stark is extremely important to Nick Fury. During the several times we met, he kept asking me about extremists in a roundabout way, and even offered to provide me with confidential information and undisclosed technologies from the FBI in the hope of improving the side effects of extremists. As Li Chengfeng listened to Tony Stark's description, a person's face vaguely emerged in his mind. During this period, people who are interested in various super abilities related to physical strengthening. Could it be him? Tony, let me ask you. Speak out what you know. This high-level FBI agent you're talking about, isn't his name John Garrett? Yes, yes, yes. That's the name. Tony Stark slammed the table and continued to talk. It's obvious that this person is hiding his true purpose. He is evasive and his words are extremely obscure. He is not someone who wants to discuss business seriously. So I kept him hanging, saying that I would not be directly involved in the management of the company and would discuss it with the board of directors. But I don't have a shitty board of directors. Now the entire Stark Industries is led by Pepper. Haha. You're smiling quite smugly? It's a comfortable life to be a hands-off manager, right? Pepper snorted coldly, wishing she could give the mustache guy a Superman flying punch followed by a flying shoulder charge. Li Chengfeng did not get involved in the bickering between the two lovers, but thought about it carefully. John Garrett, a level 8 agent of the FBI, is also one of the leaders of Hydra and a veteran double agent. His hidden identity is Acute Eyes, and his ability is the 8th level authority of the FBI and the Hydra intelligence network. Li Chengfeng wanted to laugh every time he thought of this. But he managed to have the best of both worlds, reselling intelligence all over the world and making a fortune by taking advantage of the information gap. There is even a group of believers who believe in Acute Eyes. But unfortunately, the acute eyes that are all-knowing in the eyes of believers are now dying. In a few months or even a year, he would die of multiple organ failure. Just because he was the original experimental subject of the Death Warrior. Decades ago, he had been seriously injured and had many of his organs replaced with mechanical ones. Now I am just using extremists to temporarily prolong my life. He is also the mastermind behind the Centipede project, which aims to significantly strengthen the human body and extend lifespan. But the experiment failed, the centipede was extremely unstable, so he chose to destroy the evidence through an explosion. Unexpectedly, Li Chengfeng and Phil Coulson's team rescued the last owner of the centipede. With his authority, he must have understood the whole story. The only possibility left is to find something that can resurrect him through Phil Coulson. But Grant Ward, who was initially arranged by Garrett to join Phil Coulson's team, was forced to rebel by Li Chengfeng and became the sharp knife to eliminate the traitor. Even with his level 8 clearance, he could not find any clues to the mystery of Phil Coulson's resurrection. So now Garrett has embarked on a real dead end. Well done, Tony. In this way, you continue to keep him hanging, using various excuses to delay, but you must show your goodwill for cooperation. He offended you. He was the one behind the Centipede project. Hearing this, Tony Stark understood. After all this fuss, there's a mole in the FBI's house. I originally wanted to laugh at Li Chengfeng and the FBI, but then I thought, Stark Industries also produced a beast like Obadiah. Alas, it's all tears if I talk too much. Stark patted Li Chengfeng on the shoulder, looking like he was in the same boat with sympathy. Li Chengfeng pushed Stark away. This is another price. If you want to go crazy with Pepper, don't look for me. I'm going back to the headquarters first. It's better to explain Garrett's matter to Nick Fury first. Chapter 53. Sky. This is Fitz. If you hear me, please reply. Sky got it. Gemma hasn't contacted us for 3 minutes. I'm afraid she has fallen into that man's hands. Damn it. We must avenge Gemma? Can the two of us do it? Well, let alone the two of us, even Oliver and Wade fell into his hands. It is impossible to defeat the boss. We still have to complete the mission. Sky hid behind a towering tree. Although his body was dirty and disheveled, he had few wounds. After just communicating with Fitz, I found out that Gemma had died. It also allowed them to intuitively feel the terror of their opponents. Whether it was one-on-one fights, group fights, traps, or drugging, all conceivable means were used. Unfortunately, it didn't work at all. I've collected 3 stars here, what about you, Fitz? I collected 2. I need to collect 10 in total to complete it, ah. Sky was listening to the message from Fitz when she suddenly heard a sharp scream from the other side. Then, the communicator fell into silence. Sky couldn't help but make a cross on her chest and pray for Fitz. The enemy is too powerful. But she won't give up. She's a field agent of the FBI. She will never give up on completing her mission just because the enemy is too strong. Sky. You can do it. You can do it. After reinforcing his mind, Sky took a firm step. Then he was hung upside down on a tree. The Sky people are a little numb. This has happened so many times. At first I would scream, but now I just wonder why there is a trap here. But at this moment, a colorful snake crawled towards Sky along the rope. Hey, hey, hey. This can't be such a coincidence. Li Chengfeng, you damn BD. Help. Just as the smelly body of the poisonous snake was about to touch her feet, with a whoosh, a green arrow shot the snake and the rope hanging Sky in half. A Republic man wearing FBI combat uniform flew out and caught the unfortunate Sky. Sky looked at Li Chengfeng who was holding her in his arms and was about to blush. This person let go. Let go. Sky, I'm not trying to embarrass you. Li Chengfeng looked at Sky, who was wailing and holding her butt, with a funny look on his face. The trap you stepped into last was left by Fitz and Gemma during the last training session. As Sky's supervisor, Li Chengfeng took on the responsibility of training Sky in field skills while also training new members for Phil Coulson's team. Although he ran away not long after working at the FBI Academy, he was facing a group of naughty teenage kids in junior high and high school. That's a group whose level of divine gold is almost comparable to Harley Quinn's. And these agents who have just joined Phil Coulson's team, regardless of their strength, can still enforce the rules. Except for Wade Wilson who is a bit addicted to slacking off, everything else is fine. This fishing was real slacking. He trained in this uninhabited tropical rainforest for nearly a month, and he spent most of the time having trouble with the river. Lee, you know me well. I will never let go of any grudge. On the first day I came here, I chose to hide in the river. I didn't expect that the damn piranha would dare to bite my lychees. So I have to teach them a lesson. Wade Wilson said so. But other than this minor flaw, Wade Wilson's performance was almost perfect. Not to mention Oliver Queen, almost 2 words can be removed. When he arrived in this environment, he relaxed as if he was at home. These 2 were the force leaders of the team before Captain America woke up and officially joined the team. As for the other 4 people, I can only say that they have a long way to go. Among them, Sky is even in the best condition. After all, he is an orphan and has played a long cat-and-mouse game with the FBI. As for Fitz and Gemma, I can only say that they really don't have much ability, but after unremitting efforts, they should be able to reach a basically qualified level. But, Student Barry Allen, your athletic ability is truly amazing. Li Chengfeng really couldn't understand why Barry Allen, the future Flash, had such poor motor skills. Slow and uncoordinated. Could it be to contrast with the future? Agent Lee. I know my shortcomings. I will continue to work hard. After hearing this, Li Chengfeng covered his face and did not respond. But this child has a great character and is truly the conscience of the Justice League. The family members were moved to tears. After sighing for a while, Li Chengfeng opened the portal leading to the FBI headquarters. Although you have never defeated me, nor have you ever truly completed a mission to gather stars and deliver them to their destination. I am too strong for you, so I declare. This rainforest combat training camp ended successfully. After saying that, he kicked them all into the portal one by one. Arriving at the 31st floor, which he had not seen for a long time, and seeing the faces of the black and white eggs working diligently, Li Chengfeng could not help but ask, "Hey, are the two old men busy? Give me some gold coins. I find that you are becoming less and less respectful of me." Nick Fury raised his head and looked at Li Chengfeng with a rather resentful look in his one eye. "The look in your eyes. I have no interest in black people or men. Do you know that the FBI has been busy lately? You guys are doing the same. The Star team is conducting armed training, and Phil Coulson's team is conducting jungle combat training. If I hadn't sent Maria and Natasha Romanoff to temporarily support Phil Coulson in time, Melinda, who has a bad temper, would definitely come after me." Li Chengfeng sat on Fury's expensive leather sofa, looking at the black and white eggs as if they were fools. "Although I haven't shown up recently, I've been keeping an eye on my personal terminal. Nothing serious has happened. At most, there have been a few small-scale attacks by biochemical zombies. They didn't even deploy bows, and they were all cleaned up by those naughty kids from the academy who passed by. So, have you ever thought about assigning some tasks to those naughty kids? They are not mature enough." Speaking of the kids in the academy, Bai Yadan finally raised his head. The dark circles under his eyes were quite obvious. I guess He Lu Dan should have them on his face too, but they were overshadowed by his skin color. Not being mature enough doesn't mean they're not strong enough. And there's a way to force them to mature. Li Chengfeng chuckled, "As long as they complete enough tasks and reward them with credits, I guarantee they will become the best agents." Li Chengfeng is really mean enough that he doesn't even spare child laborers. But, what a great idea. The black brined egg and the white duck egg looked at each other for just 0.1 second, and they reached a consensus through their eyes. Anyway, these naughty kids have endless energy, so why do they have to mess with these middle and old dengs? At worst, each group can just send a field agent to oversee the process. Tremble, you naughty children. Things change over time, and this time it's your turn to be tossed around. Anything else, Lao Deng? If not, I'll be leaving. As the captain, I've been away from the team for so long, and I really can't wait to go home. Go back, I have a mission for you." Nick Fury then remembered that he had called Li Chengfeng here because he had a task to assign. "My memory, it seems like it has really been tired in recent days. Mission? I will complete it by myself. It's up to you. It's not difficult, but it has something to do with the American government." Nick Fury said this, clicked a few times on his personal terminal, and sent it out. Then Li Chengfeng immediately received the details of the mission. After opening it and taking just one look, Li Chengfeng frowned. After the American government's public prison was sold to a private operator, paranormal events occurred? Old Deng, are you kidding me? Why would I tease you? Do I have the time to spare? I'm so busy right now that I wish I could split my one eye into two. Nick Fury finally broke down in the midst of the old man's shouts, but it only took a moment for him to regain his composure. It doesn't look like a big deal, but the problem is that 4 agents were sent to investigate, but in the end they were all sent back in a daze, with no memory of this prison. Memory loss? After hearing Nick Fury's description, Li Chengfeng immediately looked at Bai Yadan. The white duck egg just shook its head politely. These 4 agents gathered all of us who have telepathic abilities for a consultation and finally came to the conclusion that it was not done by someone with telepathic abilities, and there were no traces of drugs or hypnotic abilities. Putting aside other things, just talking about the field of telepathy ability, the FBI now dares to say that it is second to none in the world, and absolutely no one dares to say that it is first. If the amnesia was caused by the telepathy ability, it would definitely be discovered by the mutants. But about drugs and hypnotic ability, it's hard to say. He can only draw a conclusion after he has conducted on-site investigation. After seeing the name of this prison, the system finally released the task after a long absence. Ding, the mission prison break, brother has been released. Mission brief, an experienced FBI agent returns home inexplicably defeated. What secrets are hidden in Fox River Prison? Weird criminals and escape plans, a warden who never leaves the building, everything is a mystery. And in the darkest part of the prison, it is said that traces of God can be found. What the hell? Fox River Prison? Isn't this Prison Break? My goodness, since when does prison breaking become related to supernatural events? And can anything more magical than Teabag's name? I think it should be okay to leave this mission to you, right? Well, since the reason why the memory was erased is still unclear, the number of people entering the prison to carry out the mission should be as small as possible, but the logistics can be stepped up. Li Chengfeng said this and mentioned a few people's names. Let Fitz, Gemma, and Barry go to the Air Command Center and stay on standby. Maybe they will be needed to do some research. Also, let Sky go find Ingrid. I need a fake identity and information support. Chapter 54. Fox River, literally translated as Fox River. Located in Joliet, Illinois, it is a prison that has been in use since the last century. The local government sold it to a sole proprietorship to operate it at an outrageously high price. The prison was transformed from a public prison to a private one, and the original prisoners will continue to serve their sentences there. As we all know, in this magical country of America, hospitals, schools, and other functional units are better if they are private. Prisons are no exception. After all, there are Arkham Asylum and Sweet Night Prison as examples. The former is the talent distribution base of Gotham City, and the latter is the base camp of Amanda Waller and Suicide Squad. As if private prisons cannot survive without doing something interesting, Fox River Prison also successfully made 4 FBI agents return empty-handed and lose all their memories of their time there. Li Chengfeng has questioned these agents again. From their current memories, they stepped into Fox River Prison and were out the next moment when their feet landed. The sense of confusion in time and space has prevented these 4 agents from returning to frontline work until now. Looking up at this Victorian-style prison, apart from the slightly old air of an old house, there is nothing unusual to the naked eye. But he could only take a quick look, because Li Chengfeng, wearing prison uniform, was escorted into Fox River Prison by guards. Looking back at the gradually closing prison gate, Li Chengfeng nodded slightly. There is no weird feeling at all, and it can be preliminarily determined that this is not a special place with the ability to distort reality. As he walked through a passage covered with loess, Li Chengfeng looked inside. The criminal's exercise area is separated only by 2 tall steel fences. With his current eyesight, he locked onto 2 familiar faces almost instantly. Wentworth Miller and Dominic Purcell. He meant his younger brother Mike Schofield and his older brother Lincoln Barrows. FK, Mi Shui's face is really handsome. Li Chengfeng muttered something. After entering, he could get close to the main characters to see if there was anything unusual. After all, he has already seen clearly that this universe is indeed seriously ill. The person who created this universe is also very sick. After walking through the corridor, he arrived at the gate of the prison and registered. Culprit name: Li Chengfeng. Republican. Yes, Republic. What crime? Isn't it already written in the information? Humph. You're still so arrogant as a prisoner. You just answer whatever I ask. What crime have you committed? I killed a green-haired man with white foundation all over his face. I shot him right in the middle of his forehead, and he also took away his female subordinate. Li Chengfeng stretched out his hand and counted on his fingers. Oh, and later I killed a pretentious criminal who liked to wear sunglasses. I smashed his entire head into pieces. As Li Chengfeng spoke, he couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. I have to mention his heroic deeds. Ingrid was definitely taking revenge on me because of my bad temper when I woke up. This woman really holds a grudge. This kind of identity fraud may be extremely troublesome and easy to be exposed for other people, but for Li Chengfeng, it's all true. The person was indeed murdered, and the information is true. The American government has to treat the FBI's fake news as true. Hiss. The prison staff who was sitting outside the prison area to register the prisoners took a deep breath and sat up straight. This is a serious criminal. He should be sentenced to, what? 5 years? Ordinary prisoners in cell 40 in Area A. After saying that, he looked at Li Chengfeng a few more times, feeling a little uneasy. This is the short time he was sentenced to after killing 2 people? He wasn't even sent to the heavy punishment area. How much money did the family spend on the prison brass? Although he was shocked, he showed no expression on his face and continued with a poker face. Okay, your number is 114,514, and you will begin serving your sentence in Fox River Prison from today. If you behave well, you can get your sentence reduced through applicable federal law. As he spoke, he opened the door of the prison area, and Li Chengfeng finally stepped into the destination of this mission. At the moment, the real criminals had already gone out for some fresh air, and all they could see along the way were empty cells. But to be honest, the conditions in the ordinary prisoner area of this prison are really good. It's much more spacious than the 8 or 12-person dormitory in high school, laughs. But apart from this, no strange phenomena were found. We're already here, cell number 40, go in. After the cell door opened, Li Chengfeng felt someone pushing him roughly from behind, obviously trying to push him in. This rough action finally made Li Chengfeng feel that this was a prison rather than a prison-themed hotel. It's just a pity that the guard who was leading the way shocked himself out instead. While he was still sitting on the ground in a daze, Li Chengfeng had already walked into the cell and closed the door. There were 2 beds in the cell. Li Chengfeng sat on the one that had obviously never been slept in, and looked around curiously. In his 2 lives, he has never been to jail, let alone received a car ticket. Humph, we will gather for roll call 3 times a day, morning, noon, and evening. The specific times are announced by radio, usually at 6 am, 12 pm, and 7 pm. We will have lunch after roll call, and then start work at 7 am and 2 pm. We will return to our cells after 9 pm. The guard stood up with a groan, his fat body not quite moving. Lights out at 10 am, and any disturbance after that will be treated as nothing. Li Chengfeng put his hands on the prison door and asked with interest, so what you're saying is, after the lights go out at 10, something strange happens here. Ahem, I didn't say that. The guard immediately realized that he had said too much. He looked very secretive, adjusted his hat, and left with the rubber stick. Judging from the guard's reactions, they actually know something about this. Li Chengfeng couldn't help but worry for a second for the 2 brothers who were preparing to launch a prison break plan. Can they escape successfully? After waiting for a while, and seeing that the guard had completely walked away, Li Chengfeng reached out and tapped his ears. He turned on the microcommunicator equipped by the FBI and placed it on the earlobe, which could not be detected by the naked eye. Hey, Ingrid, Sky, I'm already in position. Ingrid got it. Sky received, how about the charges? Li Chengfeng understood when he heard Sky's slightly proud voice. It turned out to be you, BD. Okay, I've entered cell number 40. Li Chengfeng walked to the only table in the cell, flipped through the books, and said after seeing the annotations on them, I just confirmed the handwriting. It is indeed Michael Schofield's room. Li Chengfeng entered cell 40 in Area A for ordinary prisoners just for Michael Schofield, the protagonist of Prison Break. Because during the early investigation, it was discovered that it was after he and his brother were imprisoned that rumors of supernatural events began to spread in Fox River Prison. So Li Chengfeng paid so much attention to the 2 of them, not only because they were the protagonists of Prison Break, but more because among the few pieces of information available, they were extremely suspicious and had a high probability of being a breakthrough. Sky also entered hacker mode at this time. After a burst of keyboard tapping, Sky said to Li Chengfeng with doubt, Li, these 2 brothers, are very problematic. What do you mean? Although the brothers Lincoln Barrows and Michael Schofield have their real information in the federal database without any trace of modification or concealment, there is no trace of their personal use on the internet. Is this weird? What if people just don't use the internet? Li Chengfeng scratched his head. If you asked him about those trivial things about biochemical viruses, he would know everything. After all, he had obtained all of Spencer's biochemical knowledge. But the internet? He knew that it was more convenient to film in America, where the scenes were simple and could be performed by 2 or 3 people at the least, or 5 or 6 people at the most. How is this possible? In this era, as long as they don't live a primitive life in the mountains and forests, they will definitely leave traces on the internet. So this trace can only be erased by humans. People who do this kind of thing are usually planning to sneak away or get into trouble and want to hide their identities. Sky said firmly. Why is she so sure? Because she had done this kind of thing a lot when she was in the Rising Tide organization. She's a skilled worker. I heard a hint of pride in your analysis. Li Chengfeng leaned against the table and continued, so what do you think will happen to these 2 brothers? Replacement. Identity replacement. Ingrid took over the conversation. Although the rumors of supernatural events started when the 2 of them entered Fox River Prison, I conducted a very detailed screening of local information. It turned out that a year ago, there was a rumor that there was a divine revelation in Fox River Prison accompanied by a divine vessel falling from the sky. And coincidentally, a week later, Rutgers Group acquired the public prison from the Illinois state government. Li Chengfeng was also stunned when he heard this. This timing is really too coincidental, isn't it? But what interested him more was the rumor about the god's vessel falling from the sky. If it were in another universe, if the law enforcement agencies took such a rumor as a clue, Li Chengfeng would definitely call him divine gold. But here, this is the most important piece of information, even more important than the identities of the two brothers. Li Chengfeng vaguely felt that everything that happened in Fox River Prison was related to this so-called God's vessel. Don't forget, the mission brief mentioned that there are traces of God in the deepest part of the prison. It seems that I need to check out the entire Fox River Prison tonight. I have hacked into the internal monitoring system of the entire Fox River Prison and can take over at any time, but the monitoring only reaches the heavy punishment area. There is no monitoring in the death penalty area. Wait, the prisoner's exercise is over. Okay, the communication is over for now. Li Chengfeng reached out to turn off the communicator, picked up the book on the table again and began to read it. After reading 3 pages, a figure stopped outside the cell. Who are you? I'm your new roommate, Li Chengfeng. Nice to meet you, Mr. Michael Schofield. Li Chengfeng put down the book and nodded to the other party. The Interpretation of Dreams is indeed a good book. I didn't expect a structural engineer to be so interested in psychology books. Chapter 55. You are my new cellmate. Michael Schofield frowned slightly with melancholy. To be honest, even if Li Chengfeng is a straight man, he still can't help but admire this face. This face created by the mixed blood of 10 countries is really not exaggerated. Hello. I haven't been able to introduce myself yet. Li Chengfeng stepped forward and shook the other person's hands with both hands. Li Chengfeng, I was sent in because I killed 2 people. Murderer. Schofield looked at the sunny and cheerful boy in front of him, his eyes full of doubt. No matter how you look at it, this isn't the temperament a murderer would display, right? Unless this person has never considered killing as a wrong or bad thing. Impossible. A murderer who killed 2 people should at least be in the heavy punishment area. I am so ashamed. It is my fault that I was not sent to the disaster-stricken area. Li Chengfeng looked guilty. It is all my fault that I gave him too much money. In the end, I was only sentenced to 5 years. You are still ashamed. Even someone as thoughtful as Schofield couldn't help but open his mouth and wanted to say something, but finally swallowed it back. He had keenly noticed that the man in front of him seemed to be in an abnormal mental state. I hope you don't come to ruin my plan. In this somewhat strange prison, even the slightest bit of resistance would require several or even dozens of times the cost to resolve. Then let's get along well. Schofield gave a very perfunctory smile. But Li Chengfeng seemed to be unable to read the air at all. He came close to Schofield and whispered, I already know the truth of the matter, no. You are the god of gold. Schofield fought the urge to punch his new roommate in the face. You know nothing. Internet surfing has left you behind, right? What old jokes are you throwing out? The official entry into prison is during the exercise time, which is afternoon and before 1 p.m. And for the next half day, Li Chengfeng was like a ghost following him everywhere. Although he did not sit directly next to Schofield, there must be traces of Li Chengfeng within 5 steps. Moreover, Li Chengfeng maintained a polite and gentle smile from beginning to end, which made ordinary people feel warm and comfortable. But in the eyes of the Schofield and Lincoln brothers, it just looks creepy. Damn it! What's the point of this psychopath? Should I just kill him? I might as well just burn him to ashes. Listen to what you just said. Lincoln Barrows. Schofield looked at Lincoln with soothing eyes, but his words did not sound like that of a good brother who was willing to go to jail to save his brother. On the contrary, some superiors seemed to be reprimanding their subordinates. And when calling his brother by his name, he deliberately used emphasis. Lincoln calmed down when he heard his brother calling him by his full name. But the anger and brutality in his eyes could not be concealed. He really wanted to burn this Republic man named Li Chengfeng to ashes. But thinking about the reason why they came to this prison, they could only endure it. This scene was not only seen by Li Chengfeng. It was also displayed on the large screen of the Air Mobile Command Center. Ingrid Hannigan and Sky, who have completely taken over all electronic equipment in Fox River Prison, operate the onboard terminals and record what happens under each camera. Phil Coulson's entire team is sitting in front of the screen, watching the entire process of Li Chengfeng's mission this time. Even with Agent Li Chengfeng's ability, it is very important to play a good disguised identity in a completely unknown environment. Phil Coulson kept his eyes on the screen, but he was giving earnest instructions to the team members behind him. Remember, you are not a soldier running around recklessly, nor a lone law enforcer, nor a superhero flying high in a tights. You are an FBI agent. Completing the mission and eliminating the threat is your top priority. The team members did not answer, but heard a righteous voice coming from behind them. Yes, children, use your strength well, but don't rely on it too much. Everyone turned around. I saw a blonde young man wearing a leather jacket walking towards me. Who is he? Phil Coulson's teammates looked at each other, feeling a little familiar. But still can't recognize it. But Phil Coulson straightened his body, jumped up from the chair in an instant, and repeatedly raised and lowered his right hand and stretched it forward. I don't know whether to shake hands or salute. Idle, oh no, sir, welcome back. I'm not an officer. I'm just an ignorant young man who just woke up from the ice, call me Steve. Captain America Steve Rogers is not wearing his iconic battle suit, nor is he carrying a vibranium shield. He came empty-handed and sat down next to Phil Coulson. Then he turned around and shook hands solemnly with Melinda May. I heard that you were an agent recruited into the FBI by Peggy Carter herself. Yes, sir. I was recruited into the FBI by Director Carter when I was 7 years old. Will you come with me to visit Peggy Carter in a few days? As you wish. Even someone as cold as Melinda May showed great respect for Steve Rogers. Neither Nick Fury nor Phil Coulson received this treatment. But just looking at his face, you can't tell that Captain America was once the greatest hero in the whole of America. If you don't know him, you might think he is a star from nowhere. Okay, Steve. You just woke up, and you haven't completely adapted to the current society yet, right? When Phil Coulson saw Captain America sit down, he hurriedly sat beside him. When Captain America woke up, Phil Coulson's team was not there. Faced with Captain America who had just woken up after his body had recovered to its peak, Phil Coulson led dozens of field agents to chase and persuade the captain before he believed that everything in front of him was not a brainwashing illusion of Hydra. He also saw the real men who fought on the battlefield. He can really curse. They've also seen Wolverine's harsh trash talk, and compared to him, Captain America is even more intense. Cursing Hydra and killing Hydra has become an instinct ingrained in Captain America's bones. If I'm not mistaken, the man on the screen is the Li Chengfeng that Nick Fury has been mentioning, right? Yes, he was the one who dug you out of the Arctic glacier. Phil Coulson introduced Li Chengfeng to Captain America. He is 25 years old, an agent specially seconded from the Republic General Bureau by Director Nick Fury. He is now the best agent in the entire FBI, bar none. Is he carrying out a covered mission? The reason for the previous agent's amnesia is unknown, so we decided to conduct an undercover infiltration. Very wise. Sometimes it's faster to solve a problem with your brain than to crush it with terrifying force. Wait, what is he doing? As he was talking, Li Chengfeng pretended to pass by and came behind Lincoln Barrows. He reached out and touched his bald head. It's like laying an egg on a plate. Damn it! Damn it! Pan him! Chapter 56. FKU. What on earth do you want to do, UBD? Lincoln Barrows finally couldn't bear it anymore, and ignoring Schofield's warning look, he pushed away Li Chengfeng's hand that was touching his bald head. He put his hand on his waist, and then as if he remembered something, he suddenly threw a punch. But Li Chengfeng arrived later and punched him in the jaw. The force of this punch was just right, knocking the man out instantly and causing a slight concussion. The guards who had been watching the excitement on the side saw one of them fall to the ground, and then they slowly gathered around to check on Lincoln Barrows' condition. Are you still alive? If you are, send these two troublemakers to the detention room. And this head guard was the one who registered Li Chengfeng for imprisonment. After looking Li Chengfeng up and down, he thought of his identity as a murderer. This Republican man should not kill Lincoln Barrows in the brig. Although he was a prisoner living in the death row, he could not die in this prison. Don't forget to separate the two of them. Li Chengfeng had no intention of resisting, and the guards were somewhat afraid that he might suddenly attack if provoked. It turned out that this was not an escort at all, it was just bodyguards leading the way. Li Chengfeng pointed at his eyes and then tapped twice at Schofield. Schofield definitely understood that this crazy man was reminding him. I'm watching you. But to Schofield, these things are just trivial matters. The point is that Lincoln Barrows was sent to the confinement room, so he will not be released until at least 3 days later. So what about their plans for tonight? If he doesn't take action tonight, the thing on his back will. It's time. Just as he had thought before, all the inexplicable resistance would require an extra 10 times the cost to achieve the set goal. So tonight, he had to take a risk this time. The solitary confinement cell at Fox River Prison is a small room plunged into complete darkness, with only a small window that can be opened and closed from the outside. Li Chengfeng dares to guarantee that all the classic domineering boss characters will torture themselves to death when they come to this confinement room. After all, everyone suffers from stomach problems and claustrophobia. But Li Chengfeng sat on the ground, feeling extremely relaxed. The silent and deep darkness actually allowed him to think more freely. When I was teasing Lincoln Barrows just now, he seemed to be pulling out a shooting weapon from his waist. In the original novel, Lincoln Barrows should be a fist-fighting man. And that's Schofield. He didn't feel like a genius architect who entered the prison to rescue his brother, but rather like a truly shrewd criminal. Smart, criminals, who are you? Anyway, it definitely couldn't be the Schofield and Lincoln brothers. Ingrid calling the captain. Ingrid calling the captain. Please reply. I'm listening. Captain, we have already uncovered the details of Rogers Group, which acquired the entire Fox River prison. All of their companies and departments are run by professional managers, and even the legal persons and shareholders hold shares on behalf of others. So, Rogers Group is a puppet company that was pushed to the front. That's right. Sky agreed with Li Chengfeng's idea, but she had already found the answer and continued confidently, I originally thought the clue was broken, but Phil Coulson and May. Steve thought we shouldn't think too much. Sometimes, the puzzle is on the surface. The puzzle is in the puzzle. Wait, who is Steve? Has the captain fully awakened? Now is my time to show off. You are such an unromantic man. Sky said coquettishly and started to explain directly, think about it, what else does the word Rogers represent? Rogues. 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 Li Chengfeng slapped his forehead, he finally found the problem. Sky, you are so smart. Sky turned around and looked at Phil Coulson in confusion, so smart. Is he praising me? Should be, right. It was soon 10 o'clock in the evening. Once inside the solitary confinement room, everything outside definitely had nothing to do with Lincoln Barrows and Li Chengfeng who were in solitary confinement. In the darkness from beginning to end, even time cannot be known. I can only keep time by measuring my pulse or counting silently in my mind. Li Chengfeng can do all these, but he doesn't need to. On the communicator, Sky and Ingrid were constantly telling him the time. Captain, it's already 10 o'clock in the evening. Sky began typing quickly on the keyboard, and soon, all the places with cameras in the prison were under her control. The guards strictly abided by the principle of not wandering around after 10 o'clock in the evening, and all returned to the guard lounge outside the prison area. Nothing will happen, they do this every day. Has the mouse come out of its hole? Wait, not yet. He seems to be pulling out a gun? No. 2. Haha, as expected, Sky, keep communicating. Clear. After the other side of the communicator fell silent, Li Chengfeng closed his eyes. His strong physical fitness brought him sensory limits beyond human beings. Even though the confinement room was some distance away from the ordinary area, he still caught the brisk and almost silent footsteps. The footsteps were getting closer and closer, and soon, they stopped outside the door next to Li Chengfeng. Li Chengfeng also opened his eyes at this moment, and reached out to touch the door of the confinement room, so gently as if he was touching his lover's skin. Then his hands turned into diamonds and he tore open the alloy door like tearing paper. It feels good. Li Chengfeng paid tribute to the big guy from Kansas with this move. You know what, this feeling is really relaxing. Li Chengfeng twisted his neck and walked out of the confinement room. Turning around, I saw Michael Schofield using a freezing gun to freeze the door of the detention room into pieces, and Lincoln Barrows walking out of the detention room and taking the heat gun. To be precise, it was Leonard Captain Cold Snart, and Mick Heatwave Rory. A member of the infamous Rogue Gang. The Flash's everyday villain. And an avid fan. Just like Sky said, the identities of Michael Schofield and Lincoln Barrows were real, but they were replaced by two super criminals who looked exactly like them. Hey, you two from the Rogue Gang, what a coincidence, are you also going to escape from prison? Li Chengfeng waved at the two of them in a friendly manner. But what greeted him were two rays, one red and one blue. Fire and ice fell upon Li Chengfeng at the same time. Are you two giving me a scrub? I should have sneaked in a bottle of shower gel. Chapter 57. When Li Chengfeng walked out of the collision of ice and fire, his entire body had turned into a diamond. Just by looking at the appearance, one can tell that the relatively primitive freezing guns and heat guns are unable to produce high-temperature flames or absolute zero that can threaten Li Chengfeng's diamond form. The only regret is that the prison uniform he changed into after entering Fox River Prison was completely turned into ashes under the attacks of Captain Cold and Heat Wave. Fortunately, he was quick-witted and turned on the green light to transform at the same time. Even though the tight battlesuit after Green Lantern's transformation is a little sexy, it is still much better than running around naked. Especially not running naked in front of two grown men. Who can see the Republic's buttocks? Who are you? Are you from Gotham or Star City? Or Hell's Kitchen? Snart didn't know Li Chengfeng's identity and could only guess at the places most likely to compete with their rogue gang for business. I hope it's not someone from Gotham. Although Joker and Jokerts have disappeared recently, the other people in Gotham can be scary enough when they go crazy. And most importantly, these crazy villains in Gotham never accept negotiations. Well, to be precise, I'm here on behalf of Washington. Li Chengfeng replied in a profound tone. Finally, he meets a villain or hero who is not so well informed, and he hopes to keep this identity secret until the last moment. Washington? That's a special zone. Apart from Hydra, which villain wouldn't be careful enough to go there? SHH, don't ask. I'm doing this for your own good. Li Chengfeng's figure flashed, and he disarmed Captain Cold and Rilang in an instant. Snart looked at Li Chengfeng and couldn't help but sigh. Then he raised his hands. The surrender was extremely skillful and smooth. Why did you, the rogue gang, come to Illinois instead of staying in Midtown? You even spent a lot of money to buy the entire prison. We don't know anything. McRae answered in a muffled voice. He did not raise his hands, but having lost his weapon, he knew that he would not be a match for the man in front of him no matter what. Who can resist being able to transform into a diamond? No, you have to know. Li Chengfeng was also not vague. He directly materialized the green light of his will into a sword of Damocles in his hand and hung it above Microla's head. Snart and McRory were obviously betting that Li Chengfeng didn't know much about this place. In fact, Li Chengfeng really didn't understand, but as long as these two people who knew more than him were afraid of death, then everything will be easy. I'll give you 5 seconds to tell me why you're here and who's your employer. We really? 5. What do you want to explain? No matter what you explain, it will be counted. 4. Our employer is a blonde British BD wearing a trench coat and smoking a lot. He drew a magic circle on my back to contain the artifact that was recently rumored to have fallen here. Snart finally abandoned his usual cadenced tone and sold his employer at the fastest speed in his life. But the blonde British soul in the trench coat. So you were hired by that scumbag Constantine? Yes, Constantine is very interested in this artifact that fell from the sky. Li Chengfeng was not in a hurry to take back the sword of Damocles that was embodied by the green light of his will, but instead used his eyes to signal Snart. Take off your shirt. What do you mean? Snart's momentary defensiveness and strange look almost made Li Chengfeng faint. I'm not gay, you closeted BD. I want to see the magic tattoo Constantine left on you. Snart was also embarrassed for a moment. It was his fault for thinking in the wrong way. When you live under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. Just take it off. He has sacrificed his innocence for McRae's life. After taking off his shirt, Li Chengfeng saw a sophisticated and complicated magic circle. Since acquiring Dr. Doom's teleportation magic, Loki's astral projection and Hela's necromancy, Li Chengfeng has also mastered a lot of knowledge about magic. Although he has not reached the level of Doctor Strange or Dr. Doom, he has officially entered the top ranks in terms of magic. Even so, Li Chengfeng could only roughly see that this magic circle did have the function of storing things. Since you have been lurking here for so long, can you answer a few questions for me? We can answer, but can you put this thing away first? McRory pointed at the sword of Damocles that turned his bald head green. He swallowed hard and thought it was a good idea to give in time. Li Chengfeng shook his head, but raised the sword of Damocles slightly higher. Since the rumors of artifacts and supernatural events began to appear in this prison, a total of 4 FBI agents have come here. Do you know what they have experienced? Agent. Snart and McRory looked at each other. Are you talking about those men in black suits who were invited to the warden's office? They just walked in and then walked out. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. In fact, even if something happened, we don't know because the warden never left the tower-like office. Li Chengfeng frowned. Yes, this weird warden was mentioned in the mission brief. It seems that in order to solve the agent's amnesia problem, I have to meet the warden. What is the so-called vessel of God? Li Chengfeng thought for a moment and decided to deal with the so-called magic weapon first. Anyway, the warden is a stay-at-home who won't go out no matter what, so we'll talk about it later. Lie. Just as Li Chengfeng was about to speak, Snart immediately raised his index finger and put it on his lips. The moment the booing ended, only a strong pulsating sound was heard coming from the deepest part of the prison area. Gudong, gudong. The sound was heavy, like the sound of an extremely huge amount of heart beating. Moreover, if he listened carefully, Li Chengfeng could tell that these were not two consecutive pulses coming from the same direction, but pulses coming from two locations one after the other, as if they were communicating. Behind the execution area, there is actually another area, but the guards have never been there. It's as if they deliberately pretend that the place doesn't exist. McRory pointed to the shadowy passage in the dim light, as if it led not to a section of the prison but to the gullet of some giant beast. What they mean by no matter what happens after 10 o'clock, just treat it as if it didn't happen is that these two sounds will sound on time. Okay, let's go. So Snart and McRory had to take the lead and head towards the unknown road ahead. The prison gate, which had never been opened before, was also pulled open by Li Chengfeng. Originally, the severe punishment area was somewhat popular, but since I stepped into this place, it has been completely deserted. But the pulsating sound in my ear became clearer and clearer. Finally, they passed the corridor and the view in front of them suddenly opened up to a circular hall, and in the middle of the hall was a deep meteorite crater. Snart seemed to have a sudden illness and slid down into the depths of the crater. The closer he got to the center, the brighter the magic circle on his back became. Finally, as Snart knelt exhaustedly in front of the artifact, the magic circle was fully activated. Only then did Li Chengfeng realize that he had just analyzed in the wrong direction. This is not a magic circle that collects things, but a reverse magic circle that collects things, which is, release. In the grand light, a figure emerged from the magic circle on Snart's back. With a click, a Marlboro cigarette was lit. He put it in his mouth and sucked half of it fiercely. After an epic burst of inhalation passed through his lungs, he raised his head dejectedly. Good evening, my name is John Constantine. This person with super abilities who came from nowhere, unfortunately, this artifact is now mine. Chapter 58. So what? You don't know me either. Li Chengfeng was a little surprised, but still asked this inappropriate question. Are you a third-rate opera artist from the Republic? Why should I know you? I don't have a penny on me to throw into your hat. Although this scumbag Constantine was mocking Li Chengfeng in every word, at this moment, Constantine seemed so cute in his eyes. Once again, I sighed that I finally met two opponents who were not so well informed. It doesn't feel like everyone knows him. Yes, 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 it's best if you don't know me. Li Chengfeng wanted to applaud Constantine. In fact, with Scum Kang's magic level, it is not difficult to find out his identity. But now he has been completely blinded by the so-called divine weapon. Captain Cold was lying on the ground gasping for breath. Considering his physical condition, it was impossible for him to be so tired after running such a short distance. Therefore, I must be carrying this so-called magic circle on my back. So what am I? A taxi. Ha ha ha, Mr. Snart, don't look so grim. Constantine looked at Snart and said with a smile, how could you be a taxi? You are definitely a luxury hotel, but when the pocket space opens the exit, it will absorb a large part of your physical strength. Don't worry, you only need to lie at home for a few months at most. Li Chengfeng raised his eyebrows. From this conversation, he roughly guessed the truth. This scumbag Constantine is estimated to have been hiding in the pocket space behind Snart for at least half a year. Although he is not isolated from the world, at most he just exchanges information with those people in the magic world. I wonder if Li Chengfeng seems quite normal? But it really doesn't matter whether Constantine is here or not. Li Chengfeng was just amazed at how this scumbag was always at the forefront of stealing other people's equipment. No matter how many artifacts you get, you are no match for the devil Nero. Besides, confidence is the 7th item for ADC, and shamelessness is Constantine's cure. Without the magic weapon, those guys from hell can't do anything to him, right? McRory, who had just been left behind by Snart and Li Chengfeng, stumbled over and shouted at Snart, "Snat! Are you still alive? Damn it! Have you ever seen a dead man still breathing heavily? Isn't that a magician next to you? Who knows if he made you continue to talk even though you're dead? I've seen it in novels and animations. Don't take literary creations as real. Isn't our current situation more outrageous than any literary creation? MD, a green light player and a magician, although they have some skills, they are still more or less ordinary people, so what are they playing with them here? Are you playing with your own life?" McRory wanted to continue talking to Snart to delay time and see if he could let Snart recover his strength so that he could run away. But he was kicked aside by Li Chengfeng, and rolled over while holding his waist. "Sorry, it's smooth sailing." The reason why Li Chengfeng still had the leisure to bully McRory was because he saw clearly what the artifact was. "So everyone, it's nice to meet you here. Now Constantine is going to put away the artifact that belongs to him, and then open a dimensional portal and run away." Constantine gave Li Chengfeng a very coquettish thank you ceremony, then strode towards the artifact located in the center of the pit. Bending over, stretching out his hands, exerting force, with a smug smile on his face. Then he used too much force and lost his balance and fell to the ground. "Ha ha ha ha! Where can I pretend to be so high and mighty? But you managed to catch a great white shark." Li Chengfeng laughed at Constantine without any hesitation. Joke. With his character, how could he actually try to take Mjolnir? Ordinary people just can't pick it up. When it's Constantine's turn, he should be beaten to a pulp. It was a good thing for him to fall like a dog and eat shit. Only, why is Mjolnir in a place like this? Isn't that right? Li Chengfeng scratched his head. Logically speaking, shouldn't that big stupid guy Thor still be staying in Asgard? Although Loki once said that he sent a distress signal to Thor. But is there any good thing in the world that reinforcements will come immediately after you ask for help? What's more, with Thor's super rough outlines and the Asgard people, who are immortal, having a dull sense of time, it would be impossible for them to arrive in time. This is what Li Chengfeng originally thought. But Mjolnir was right there not far away, and judging from Constantine's performance, he didn't move at all despite trying his best. Most likely it's genuine. Constantine wasn't really stupid enough to grab the artifact with his bare hands just now. Now that the hammer is here, can the god of hammer be far behind? As the saying goes, a highly poisonous creature must have a natural enemy within 5 steps and a sleeping dragon must have a phoenix chick within 5 steps. There will always be a big golden-haired fool within 5 steps of Mjolnir. Li Chengfeng glanced at the closed door at the end. Right there. Loki, Loki, I didn't expect that you are really the most favored one in Odin's family. H-shu. 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 Loki, who was lying on the ground to rest, suddenly sneezed 3 times without warning. You have a cold. Pietro, who was sitting on Loki's left, was breathing heavily, but he did not forget to show concern for Loki. You are talking nonsense, little brat. I am the god of trickery of Asgard. I am not even from Earth. I just look like a human on the outside, but my internal structure is completely different, okay? If the cold virus on Earth can work on me, then the Earth is really not far from the next mass extinction. That means someone is talking about you. Wanda, who was sitting on Loki's right, was also very tired, but she continued to manipulate the crimson magic energy in her hands to twist the Rubik's Cube. This was also the method that Loki, a renowned assassin and magician in the 9 realms, taught her, so that she could better exercise control over energy. Hey? You're talking about me? Where did you learn this from? I saw it on Hela's phone. The Hyuxia internet is really amazing. Magic and divination can actually be found directly on the internet. If you sneeze once, someone is scolding you. If you sneeze twice, someone is missing you. If you sneeze 3 times, someone is talking about you. Do you believe the internet, or do you believe that I, Loki, have the final say in the Star Squad? Loki rolled his eyes. Ever since Li Chengfeng brought these 2 brats back, he has never cared about them. In fact, he is the one who takes care of these 2 super ability kids. If we say that Li Chengfeng is the scumbag father who picked up a child and then threw him home without taking care of him, then Loki is the eldest brother who inexplicably takes on the responsibility of raising his younger siblings. This month, he is really tired. He probably understood the feeling of Thor and Odin chasing after him to clean up the mess after he had done something. You have the final say in Team All-Star? Then can you let Big Sister Hela hit me less today? You know how vicious and heavy Big Sister Hela's attacks are. My small body really can't handle it. Pietro said with a sad face. Loki rolled his eyes. This silly boy really can neither understand what people say nor read the air. If he really had the final say, the first thing he would do would be to end this armed march where they would just get beaten up. One has to say that, as the former commander of the Asgard army, Hela is indeed very experienced in training troops. Every abuse against each individual is targeted abuse. For example, Loki himself had to use energy to materialize Li Chengfeng's face while dodging the attacks of 10 night sky swords. During this period of time, he almost had a stress response when looking at Li Chengfeng's face. When I see this face, my body starts to ache, as if the flesh that was cut by Night Sky Sword is opening again. But thanks to Hela's almost inhumane training method, Loki feels that his magic level has skyrocketed recently. The most important thing is, in an emergency, he would not subconsciously pull out his beloved little dagger, but use magic. Definitely. What he loved most was his pair of daggers. A magician who doesn't want to be an assassin is not a good magician. Not far ahead, Hela was staring at Harley Quinn. As a mortal, an immortal without any special skills. Who said I don't have any special skills? Harley Quinn pulled up her torn fishnet stockings. My special skill is long legs. I meant about the battle. Yes, this is very useful in battle. Every time I show Li Chengfeng the fishnet stockings, I can perfectly attract his attention, and then I can successfully launch a sneak attack every time. You, Shenjin. After more than a month of being influenced by the internet, Hela's speech has changed from her original half-old queenly accent to a much more approachable one. However, when facing Harley Quinn, a psychologist who suffers from severe mental illness, he was at a loss from beginning to end. Although her physical fitness is only slightly better than that of the mutant siblings, she does not have a super ability. It's fine for an elite agent like Ada Wong who has experienced hundreds of battles, but how did this guy with barely qualified fighting skills perform much better than the mutant siblings this time, and sometimes even better than Loki's actual combat performance? It's unreasonable. Even if a mentally ill person has wild and unrestrained thoughts, they can't be this outrageous. Anyway, for a super military strategist who has fought in space wars for thousands of years, this is simply incomprehensible. Just when Hela wanted to study Harley Quinn in a different way, a portal suddenly opened behind her. Li Chengfeng, wearing a green light battle suit, shouted from the other side of the portal, "The Asgard siblings, come here. Come and see if this big golden-haired fool is from your family." Chapter 59. Back to 10 minutes ago. What the hell is this goddamn weapon? I almost pulled a demon out of hell to possess it. Why is it not moving at all? While smoking, Konstantin kicked Mjolnir on the ground in frustration. Outrageous. That's outrageous. He had never seen such a strange artifact. Even the hitting and kicking would not cause any counterattack or fight back. Apart from not moving at all, it was like an ordinary sledgehammer. If he hadn't been able to sense the divine power as violent as thunder and lightning, he would have thought it was a counterfeit product. Well, you seem to be quite relaxed. Are all people in your magic circle like this? Another male magician I know, his biggest hobby is to fight those warriors in close combat with 2 daggers. Isn't this guy a bit mentally ill? Konstantin answered this subconsciously, but he suddenly realized that the person who said this very close to him, even standing behind him. So the moment he turned around, Konstantin started chanting a spell. But as soon as the first syllable with an obscure and strange pronunciation came out of his throat, all the following spells along with a puff of cigarette were choked into his lungs by a hand. This caused a violent and dull cough. The one who was the last to arrive and pinched Konstantin's mouth with his hand was naturally Li Chengfeng. You can't expect the 2 guys lying on the ground recovering their health to suddenly stand up and become the protagonist, right? Hush, you scumbag magician, don't recite the spell to summon hellfire. Li Chengfeng shook his finger in front of Konstantin. Playing with fire too much can easily make you pee on the bed. As a well-known magician like you, you don't want to play incontinence in public, right? Constantine had no time to listen to Li Chengfeng's dirty talk. He could only feel that the hand pinching his face was like an iron clamp. Since he didn't know ventriloquism, he could only use his life-saving trump cards to break free from the hand. But the person with super abilities in front of him didn't even give him any chance. Instead, he used green light that he had never seen before and didn't understand to form a straitjacket commonly used in mental hospitals. If he could see the scene, the unknown mutant leader with the online name Magneto would definitely be moved to tears. Yes. That's the feeling. This feeling is so refreshing. The pain can only fade away if you share it with someone. Constantine was also confused by the scene before him. What kind of weird ability is this? This green energy is neither the power of technology nor any kind of magic. Even Constantine, who had fooled the kings of hell, could not analyze this energy and counter it in a short time. For the first time in so many years, he felt a little despair. Especially after his hands were completely controlled, he couldn't even cast magic that didn't require chanting. Constantine, a famous magician, a super scumbag whose betrayal times are comparable to his cheating times. Li Chengfeng let go of the hand that was holding the other person's mouth. So how did you know there was a magic weapon here? If I answer you, will you let me go? I have an 80-year-old mother and a baby who has just been weaned. Do you think I would believe it? You? Constantine? An 80-year-old mother and a baby who had just been weaned. Then it can be the other way around. Even though Constantine had been controlled by Li Chengfeng, he still managed to say a few words. I have an old mother who just weaned herself, and an 80-year-old child. Li Chengfeng had no good feelings towards this kind of guy who had no bottom line. Although I liked Constantine very much in the past, that was only because he was a comic character. It's really hard to like such a scumbag when he is standing right in front of you. But, after all, he is an excellent old magician who is capable of solving many large-scale incidents. Maybe I will really need to ask this thing for help in the future. Because this grandson is really wild. Although I don't want to kill him, but there should be no problem in giving him a couple of punches, right? Even with Constantine's wide range of sexual interests, he wouldn't be turned on by something like this, right? Seeing that Li Chengfeng's eyes were looking more and more brutal at him, Constantine, who was the most likely to escape, immediately chose to give in. My super ability brother, we have no grudges in the past or in the present, so why don't you just treat me like a fart? I don't want this artifact anymore, how about giving it to you as a gift? Li Chengfeng was a little surprised. Because Constantine spoke this passage in fairly standard Republican language. You can speak Republican. I'm not talented. I once spent quite a long time on an island called Purgatory in the southern waters of the Republic. Constantine smiled shyly. Speaking of Purgatory, I made a good friend there. He's now an elite agent of the FBI. I have a very good relationship with him. If I disappeared, he would definitely turn the whole of America upside down just to find me. What an excellent rhetoric, using words to lower the defense, and then simultaneously begging for mercy and threatening. If Li Chengfeng was really an ordinary super ability user with no background or even sent to prison, he might really be threatened. But what a coincidence. This good friend you're talking about, isn't he an archer named Oliver Queen? Have you heard of my brother's reputation? If that's the case, then it's easy to say. After you release me, the artifact will still belong to you. What are you doing? Li Chengfeng did not continue to listen to his nonsense, but took off the communicator and switched it to external speaker mode. Sky, is Oliver here? Yes, yes. Sky's voice rang out from the other end of the communicator. Not only Oliver, our entire team is watching your mission this time. It's just that there is no surveillance at your location, what a pity. Don't feel sorry for now. Let Oliver have a say. Li Chengfeng urged, and 2 seconds later, the voice coming from the communicator turned into a magnetic male voice. Agent Li, is there anything I can help you with? Right now, there is a British magician in a yellow windbreaker in front of me. He said that he has a life and death relationship with you and that he made friends with you in Purgatory. Purgatory? Britons? Magicians? Could it be that BD Constantine? Oliver's voice immediately rose an octave. That BD asked me to help him take the damage. I'm a long-range archer, BD. He said he has a very good relationship with you. Bullshit. At most, we just do each other a small favor. He also said you'd turn America upside down to find him. Let's not talk about whether I have this ability or not. Even if I do, it must be because he has offended me to the point of no return. Constantine's face turned dark as Oliver Queen's voice came from the communicator. After the lie was exposed, my brain was forced to work frantically. The identity of the man in front of him was clear. He was an FBI agent, and he must be a high-level agent. Even a proud person like Oliver felt a little respectful towards him. Ahem, so you're an FBI agent? Constantine suddenly said in a regretful and upright voice, the flood has flushed the Dragon King Temple. I'm also an FBI agent. You're talking bullshit. Li Chengfeng didn't trust this guy who talked nonsense at all. But Constantine arched his butt and said flatteringly, please relax a little. My FBI ID is in my trouser pocket. Be careful not to touch anything strange. Seeing the other party's expression, Li Chengfeng did not believe what he said, but he still removed part of the green light and took the certificate he mentioned. Just looking at the cover, it is indeed an FBI document, but it is not an AIC document. Although the FBI is a unified agency, it has its own headquarters in each major country, so the credentials are naturally different. There is a bald eagle on the cover of my certificate from the American General Administration. There is a lion and shield on the cover of the certificate of the British Royal Government. And on Constantine's ID card was the one that Li Chengfeng was very familiar with, the dragon. That's right. TNND Constantine, this is an FBI certificate from the General Administration of the Republic. Who are you fooling? Fake certificates have been brought to the head of the General Administration of the Republic? Li Chengfeng smiled without saying anything, then took out his ID. The identical pattern froze Constantine's smile on his face. How come he is from the General Administration of the Republic? The General Administration of the Republic captured a British man in America. What are you doing? How dare you forge a fake FBI ID? I can't let you go this time. I'll have to lock you up for more than a decade after this is over. After Li Chengfeng finished speaking, he did not give Constantine any more chance to cause trouble, and skillfully sealed Constantine's mouth with the green light of his will. Then he threw him aside. At this time, Mick Rory had recovered from Li Chengfeng's kidney shot and had also reached the bottom of the pit. He wanted to come over to help Snart up, but he didn't expect that Constantine, who was bound by green light, was thrown in front of him. Li Chengfeng also saw Mick Rory and shrugged at him. You and Snart are not allowed to run away. Your affairs have not been completely explained yet. Li Chengfeng threatened the two first, then pointed at Constantine on the ground, but you can beat him up to vent your anger. It can also be regarded as a way to adapt to prison life in advance. Snart, quick! Don't come to help me. Beat him up. First break his nasty British nose. Li Chengfeng ignored Microry's roar, Snart's cheers, and Constantine's faint screams of pleasure, and walked forward to try to pick up Mjolnir. And then failed. There's definitely something wrong with this hammer's recognition system. Even though I'm such a strong person, it can't work? Humph. Although I like to stare at Wang Ji and Harley's thighs, I am a very noble person. Yes. It's all the hammer's fault. Li Chengfeng grumbled in dissatisfaction, but did not dwell on it. Instead, he came to the cell at the end. This door is an ordinary iron door, but there are a lot of complicated magic circles on it. After Li Chengfeng tried to disassemble them, he found that they were all arranged against divinity. It has no effect on ordinary people, but once an alien with divinity like Loki enters, his limbs will become powerless, and his divine power will be suppressed to a state of almost nothingness. For example, a person with a devil fruit ability who is controlled by sea stone. In other words, there really is a god locked up here. With the addition of Mjolnir in the pit, the identity of this god is obvious. Thor. Li Chengfeng had no hesitation. He tore open the iron door and walked in. As expected, in the center of the magic circle, there was a tall, god-like blonde Su Jinjiang, grass. Thor looks more like Su Jinjiang when he looks haggard and weak. After erasing the magic circle, Li Chengfeng decisively opened the portal, ready to hand Thor over to the team and bring the entire team over. Because he could feel the moment the magic circle was erased. In the direction of the warden's office building, a strange red streak crossed the sky. Chapter 60. After Li Chengfeng opened the portal, the first person to rush through the portal and arrive inside the Fox River prison was not the two Asgard gods, the goddess of death Hela and the god of trickery Loki, but King Aida. She even hooked it in with a grappling gun. What the hell? A portal thing can be hooked by a grappling gun? It turns out this thing has a physical body. Your teleportation magic, are you asking me? Ada did a light backflip and landed gracefully. I'm just a little surprised, that's all. What's even more surprising to me is that you seem a little eager to see me. To be honest, I do want to see you. Ada's eyes showed a tender look, and then he stepped on Li Chengfeng's instep, and crushed it hard with hatred. Although it didn't hurt at all for Li Chengfeng, and was even a little itchy, he still had to make things clear, right? Why did he kick me right away? Fortunately, Li Chengfeng no longer had shoes on his feet. The clothes and shoes issued by the prison had long been turned into ashes and dust in the ice and fire world of Captain Cold and Heat Wave. If Li Chengfeng were to wear the signature sneakers he bought last month, he would be in so much pain. Although he doesn't know much about rugby, the CO branded shoes he produced are really nice looking. Sure enough, the only advantage of cheap things is that they are cheap. The only disadvantage of expensive things is that they are expensive. After hearing Li Chengfeng's long-lost witty remarks, Ada's anger inexplicably subsided. But calming down doesn't mean there's no anger. Ada pointed angrily at the other side of the portal. How dare you say that? I'm a mentally stable mortal, but I was trained for a whole month by a level universe war maniac who has conquered several planets. Do you know what a mortal is? Living in the home of a colleague I'm flirting with, changing clothes a few times to hint at him, but he never takes the bait. And then dealing with the team management of this person who usually doesn't care about it, and finally having to handle all the complicated and numerous paperwork. Damn it! There's not even a normal person in this team who can help me share the paperwork. Even though I'm in such a miserable state, I still have to train. And I'm the Asgard goddess who shows my true strength. I only make a 5-figure salary a month, and I need to do some work to save the world every day, so why do I have to sacrifice myself? With such a small amount of money, I have to save up for a long time to buy a grappling gun. What the hell am I doing? King Ada's fierce bombardment finally made Li Chengfeng react. It seems, that's the situation. When Hela proposed to train an army from Midgard, he agreed without thinking. He was thinking at the time that it might be a good idea to train this group of Superman types. But I forgot that there is Ada, a relatively ordinary person. He has never treated Harley Quinn as an ordinary person. First of all, her physical limiters seem to have been completely opened due to her mental problems. Although it will not truly exceed the limits of the human body, the strength, speed, and flexibility displayed are far beyond that of ordinary agents. Secondly, this woman is definitely the luckiest person in this universe. If this universe is a comic or novel universe created by some weird fan author, then Harley Quinn is probably one of the absolute protagonists. The highest authority in the entire America General Administration regards her as the closest thing to a daughter in his life. Bruce Wayne and Batman have certified her as one of the rare true female friends. She is also the senior of the big guy from Kansas and a schoolmate of Lois. When she was chatting with the big guy, it even seemed that Harley Quinn had introduced him and Lois. After understanding this experience, wouldn't anyone say it's awesome? Even Black Braised Egg and White Duck Egg, two experienced old men, took a deep breath after Li Chengfeng reported Harley Quinn's latest personal information. To put it bluntly, Harley Quinn can now just go and conquer the world, and it is something she can do with a high probability. Well, it was my oversight. It was a little unreasonable to put you among these super ability people. Humph. Even so, I am the warrior who has received the highest assessment score from the Asgard goddess in the past month. Ada rolled her eyes. Just because I complain doesn't mean I'm bad. After complaining to Li Chengfeng like this, she felt much more balanced. Then she looked around and saw the golden-haired Su Jinjiang with his eyes closed in the middle. She asked with some doubt, "Who is this thing? Where is this place? Oh my god, I was so busy listening to your complaints that I forgot about the important things." Ada. This is a serious mistake on your part. How could you chat with your boss and make him forget about the important things? Li Chengfeng deliberately put on a vicious look and glared at Ada. Your problem is very serious. Change your hair to white silk when you get home from get off work, and your boss will have a good talk with you. Also, refer to your job title when you are working. After saying this somewhat shameless man turned around and walked into the portal. At this time, he did not bother to talk to the team members who were neatly lined up on the ground to recover their physical strength. Instead, he shouted to the sister and brother, Hela, the goddess of death, and Loki, the god of trickery, the Asgard siblings, "Come here. Come and see if this big golden-haired fool is from your family. My goodness, he's wearing nothing but his underpants, sleeping with his butt sticking up in the deepest cell of Fox River Prison. If he had worn one more piece of clothing or one less piece of clothing, I would have thought he was a normal person. So you're assuming that the Asgardians are not in their right minds? Loki muttered as he stood up and walked to the portal. Although I do agree with your point of view, the Asgardians, including myself, are not in their right minds. Li Chengfeng glanced at Loki in surprise. Wow, Loki can think rationally at this time? This emotional stability is a bit scary. It seems that the beating that the big guy from Kansas gave to shock his mind and worldview through his body was really effective. My queen, what do you mean by what you just said? Hela was currently wearing a battlesuit with intricate patterns, similar to the one she wore when she first emerged from the seal, but this one was obviously not a cheap one. She just walked straight towards Li Chengfeng. The double body of a queen and a goddess made this tall and majestic lady exude both a domineering aura and the compassion unique to a god. Li Chengfeng felt overwhelmed by this kind of visual impact. What are you talking about, you big golden-haired idiot? Have you used your ability to pick up at least one person every time you go to a place? You call this ability? Li Chengfeng pressed his forehead and laughed bitterly. Do you think I think so much? Isn't this a coincidence? I have just confirmed that it is definitely an Asgardian. I have some guesses about the specific identity, but I still need Loki to confirm it. After Li Chengfeng finished speaking, he turned around and walked back to the other end of the portal. Hearing what Li Chengfeng said, Hela found it magical. My brother, isn't Midgard a little too magical? How come there is another Asgardian? Don't ask. Midgard is a place that has some metaphysics to it. Loki said with a familiar expression, don't forget that even you, the eldest sister, were sealed in Midgard by our father for no apparent reason, right? That's right. To be honest, we seem to be part of this abnormal situation. Don't. I made a deal with the mad titan named Thanos through careful consideration and using my eloquence. I invaded Midgard and he gave me manpower, that was an entire interstellar mercenary army. But in the end, wasn't he easily defeated by that god on Earth named Clark Kent? Hela criticized her brother mercilessly as she walked into the portal. Big sister. Please don't be so harsh on me, a kid who's not even 1,500 years old. Loki followed through the portal. I obviously chose the wrong place to invade that time. If I had chosen Washington, it wouldn't work because Li Chengfeng is there. I should have. New York. Yes. I should have chosen New York. You choose whatever you want. Li Chengfeng turned around and glared at Loki fiercely. This wasn't the look he put on when flirting with Sister Wong, but the look he really wanted to beat her up. If he chooses New York, Stark alone and the FBI's influence in New York will not be able to stop the Chitauri army. But if it really happens, Li Chengfeng can guarantee. He promised that Loki's head would be delivered to Odin personally. You saved your life. Li Chengfeng said, patting Loki on the shoulder. Come and take a look at this man. Does he look familiar to you? Does he look like your elder brother who is not related by blood but has the same brain circuit as you? Loki was stunned when he heard that and quickly ran forward to check. After seeing the face of the golden-haired Su Jinjiang clearly, he was stunned at first, then he patted his brother's head and laughed out loud. Ha ha ha. Thor. It really is you. I never thought you would end up like this. My dear brother, what's wrong with you? Why are you naked? And your butt is sticking out? I heard that Midgard likes handsome men the most in prison. Hela was more direct. He stepped on Thor's butt mercilessly and walked directly to the other side to check the complicated magic circle on the ground. To be honest, Hela was not very interested in this biological brother whom Odin had never met. She even had some natural resistance to this brother who looked very similar to Odin when he was young. In comparison, she prefers Loki, a somewhat rebellious giant of Jotunheim, as her younger brother, but this younger brother is more like Odin in every aspect. But unexpectedly, with just this one kick, Thor groaned and then slowly woke up. The first thing I saw was Loki. Loki UBD. You actually tricked me with a letter for help. Chapter 61. Who lied to you? I was really caught by a scary guy at that time, okay? I stayed in that magic suppressing cell for a whole year. Loki got angry when he heard his brother say that. Although he has always used the sheep are coming prank to fool Thor in the past, he will probably continue to do so in the future. But the only time he sent the letter for help, he was really asking for help. That's communication across the universe. Who would have the time to make such a broken thing to fool his stupid brother? And you didn't come to save me. Look. In the end, we saved you. After hearing these words, even Li Chengfeng, who is so shameless, felt that Loki's face this time was a little too ugly. Since Thor was in Midgard at the moment, that is to say, after he received his brother's letter for help, even if he still suspected in his heart whether this was another prank by Loki, the god of trickery, he only thought about it in his mind. The body is honest. He immediately rushed to Earth from Asgard, fearing that something might have happened to his brother. Woohoo, he is indeed a good brother who loves his younger brother. I'm a little disappointed with you too. JPG Thor did not notice Li Chengfeng's ambiguous and teasing look. Instead, he continued to speak angrily to Loki, you've been imprisoned for a whole year? And in a magic cage? Look at me, I've also been imprisoned in this place for a year. Look at these magic circles designed for the gods. There are 50 of them stacked on top of each other. I can only muster a little strength at 10 o'clock every night to resonate with Mjolnir and barely move a little bit outside of the magic circle. And you? My brother. One of the best magicians in the entire 9 realms. How can I believe that this magic circle and cage were not prepared by you for me? After hearing this, Li Chengfeng probably understood. The matter is simple. Thor rushed from Asgard to rescue people, but ended up being imprisoned. For a year, he thought it was his brother who did it. Now that I see my brother, I realize that I was wrong. My brother really asked me for help. So even though I am still complaining to my brother, I feel unusually relaxed and even happy in my heart. This time, his brother finally didn't lie to him again. After possessing the original Green Lantern ring, although he could only manipulate the green light of will, his perception of other emotions also became much sharper. Li Chengfeng could actually feel that Thor was in a very happy mood at the moment, and he didn't even care about the fact that he was only wearing shorts. Really, except for their different faces, these two brothers have exactly the same tsundere personalities. Thinking of this, Li Chengfeng turned his attention to Hela again. If tsundere is considered a family characteristic, then would this tall and majestic sister also have this kind of reversal charm? Although tsundere will fade away, he can always fight. At this moment, the Asgard goddess was concentrating on examining the magic circle that was destroyed by Li Chengfeng. Divine counterattack, magic suppression, weakened body, nightmare cycle. Well Hela, what did you see? Except for the magic circle used to counter the divine power, the rest are normal magic circles. There is nothing strange about them. The key point is this magic circle that counters the divine power. Without it, even this weak blonde chicken would be able to escape from the predicament in a very short time. Although I don't know the origin of this divine counter, I can be sure that it was definitely not created by a magician, but by some higher being. Hela turned around and walked towards Li Chengfeng with a frown on her face. Once again, he stepped on Thor's butt. This time Thor has come to his senses. Hey! You are such a rude woman. I am Thor Odin, the first child of the father of God Odin, the god of thunder of Asgard, and the future king of Asgard. Hela frowned as she looked at her silly golden-haired brother who knew nothing. The first child? The future king of Asgard. Hela snorted. Do you think you are the first person to hear this promise? What, do you mean? Who are you? My stupid Odo, you know nothing, Thor Odin. The moment Li Chengfeng heard these words, he felt a surge of anger in his chest, neither going up nor down. Finally he found the best person to vent his anger on. Even though Loki had sensed something was wrong when he saw Li Chengfeng looking around, he was still a step too slow and was grabbed on the shoulder by the Queen of Gods appointed by his eldest sister. My dear Queen of Gods, what can I do for you? Loki tried to break free of the hand while talking about something else. Hey, Wanda and Pietro are still waiting for me. And Harley, if we all run to this portal, aren't you afraid that she will lead Wanda and her brother astray? Is it useful to escape now? When Hela proposed to train you, I warned you many times. The hand that pinched Loki's shoulder continued to exert force. Even Loki, an Asgardian, could not bear it. Don't let Hela indulge in mobile phones and social networks. Listen to what she said just now. Naruto and Game of Thrones, what a mess. My lady queen, please listen to my explanation. You know what my elder sister's temper is like. As the crown prince of Asgard and the commander of the army, if I had the ability and courage to control her, would I have been fooled and threatened by you into signing a 250-year employment contract? Loki also felt wronged. Don't look at his usual appearance. In Hela's eyes, he is nothing. If he is obedient, he will be a good brother who follows his elder sister's lead. If he had any intention of rebelling, he would be nothing more than a half-blood of the giants of Jotunheim. So, let him supervise Hela. He would rather go to the psychological counseling class taught by that madman Harley Quinn within the FBI every day. In other words, as the god of trickery, his physical structure and control over human nature make him basically immune to mental illness. Otherwise, he must find a way to get mentally ill and clear his mind. While Loki was being beaten by Li Chengfeng, Thor also started to get angry. What? You mean, you are actually my eldest sister? The first child of the father of God Odin in the true sense? The commander of the Asgard army and the crown prince of Asgard? No. You evil heretic! Don't try to deceive me. Humph, it seems that we have been at peace for too long. Old Odin actually raised an heir as naive and stupid as you. It seems that he is really old. Hela has been observing Thor over and over again, and after thinking for a long time, she still can't figure out how this guy could sit on her former position as crown prince. But from the perspective of his character, Hela actually likes this blood-related brother very much. In the past, she had many warriors under her command who were as simple but brave and skilled in fighting as Thor. Even she would never hate such a person. But if someone with this kind of personality became the king of Asgard, that would be a disaster for the entire Asgard. In Hela's eyes, Thor, at least the current Thor, he simply doesn't have the potential to become a king. Shut up. Even if you are really my eldest sister, I will not allow you to insult the father of God Odin. Thor said this, forcing his weak body that had not yet recovered, and raised one hand with all his strength. When Li Chengfeng saw Thor's action, he moved to the side silently. TNNT, this guy didn't even look to see if there were any obstacles on the road when he summoned the hammer. He didn't want to be hit by a hammer for no reason. And there was no need for him to solve this problem. Mjolnir's previous owner was standing right here. There was nothing to be afraid of. However, it was only when Thor summoned Mjolnir that Li Chengfeng remembered that there were 3 buddies outside waiting to be imprisoned in the FBI jail. Although no one was watching them, given their state and the threats Li Chengfeng had made against them, they were probably still waiting there obediently. It's not necessarily strange, maybe Mick Rory is still beating Constantine. This time, Zhakong has suffered a big setback. Go, bring everyone here together. This armed training is over. Li Chengfeng raised his chin to Loki. After they come over, control the 3 criminals outside. Ah? What criminal? You still have time to catch thieves. As an FBI agent, it is my duty to fight crime, and this thief wanted to steal your family's heirloom hammer. As the person involved, can you kowtow to me as a token of your gratitude? Your divine gold. Loki rolled his eyes, turned back to the other side of the portal, and brought Wanda and her brother and Harley Quinn, who were still lying dead. At the moment the portal closed, everyone saw a war mermaid from the core of a dead fixed star flying through the air and heading straight for a blonde burly man wearing only shorts. Thor is about to touch Mjolnir. Just like when the goddess of death Hela stands on the land of Asgard, she will regain her former glory. If Thor holds Mjolnir, his power, which was sealed in the hammer by Odin's spell, will immediately begin to feed back to Thor. This is also the reason why Thor was ridiculed as the god of hammer in the early stage. In essence, it is because his ability is too powerful and cannot be perfectly controlled. So for Thor, Mjolnir is both a weapon and a limiter, and also a phoenix healing pack that takes effect instantly. But a slender hand with distinct joints was quicker and firmly grasped the head of Mjolnir's hammer. The corners of Thor's mouth, which had been raised, completely froze. Many years later, when the father of God Thor Odin recalled this day, he would always hold his head in his hands and howl to the sky. 2 inches. Just 2 inches. Chapter 62. Loki, if you were given a chance now, would you really kill Thor? Li Chengfeng sighed, his eyes full of melancholy. If it was before, I might have, but now, forget it. Why? You're still asking me why? Loki pointed at Thor, who was being beaten on the ground by Hela, speechlessly. Look at what he's been beaten into by my elder sister. My mother would never recognize him unless she looked at his soul. Upon hearing this, Li Chengfeng also looked at Thor's originally angular face of a typical European and American handsome guy. Now, let alone the race, even the species seemed to have changed a bit. No way. His own sister was too ruthless. Just hit him in the face with a hammer. That is, Thor originally had terrible physical fitness, and Hela did not actually use her power as the goddess of death, but only used her physical fitness to attack Thor. This was definitely a show of mercy. Li Chengfeng discovered that, apart from being a war maniac, Hela was not as hostile to her family as he had imagined. Even towards her father, the father of God who ruled all of Asgard and later sealed her on Earth, she was not completely disgusted. What she hated was that her father completely denied everything she had ever done. But Li Chengfeng was very understanding and even felt that Hela was quite restrained. You took me to fight and seize territory since I was a child. You taught me how to fight and how to fight. When I felt that I could inherit your will, you said that you wanted to rule in peace and thought that I was too cruel and bloodthirsty to inherit the throne. What is the difference between this and the prince is ill and you should encourage him? What are you doing? Are you teasing a fool? Where in the world can there be such a resentful crown prince? So beating up his younger brother to vent his anger can also be considered as getting some interest back from Odin in advance. Seeing this, Li Chengfeng and Loki definitely chose to continue watching the fun from the sidelines. The quarrels and fights between siblings are so loving, laughs. At the beginning, Thor was very tough. He gritted his teeth even when he was beaten and even tried to fight back. Later, after his face was completely beaten into a pig's head by Mjolnir, even someone as simple-minded and slow-witted as Thor reacted. It seemed that his eldest sister didn't want to beat him up, but wanted to slap someone in the face by beating him up. And beating the crown prince would be a hit on the king's face. This is definitely an unprovoked disaster for me. Thinking of this, Thor suddenly felt a surge of grievance in his heart. My eldest sister, I was wrong. When Thor said this, Loki's forced stern face finally broke. Ha 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 ha. This is so funny. This big golden-haired fool actually has a day when he admits his mistakes and begs for mercy. Epsilon equals Omicron asterisk, alas, according to my analysis, if he were facing a mortal enemy now, a person like Thor would never beg for mercy even if he died. Li Chengfeng sighed, but now the one beating him is his blood sister. Isn't it normal to beg for mercy from his sister? Humph. I won't give him this chance. If he gets beaten, he will definitely get beaten completely. How can he beg for mercy? Wait, I'll go and sow discord among them. Loki's eyes rolled, a plan came to his mind, and he walked towards the domestic violence scene in Asgard with a sly grin. Li Chengfeng stretched out his hand, but was still a step too late and failed to keep Loki. He definitely didn't mean to not stop Loki, and he really didn't want to see more excitement. Big sister, please don't let him go. He is definitely in cahoots with father. You and I are the only ones in our family who are in the same group. We are the best in the world. Hela, who was using a hammer to educate her younger brother, turned around subconsciously when she heard Loki's voice. After seeing Loki, the nameless anger in my heart grew stronger and stronger. Thor does look and feel very much like the young father of God Odin. But Loki, the adopted son, is more similar to Odin in character. Big sis, what do you mean by looking at me like that? Loki was keenly aware that the way Hela looked at him was obviously not right. The next hammer hit him. Li Chengfeng. Help. I'm sorry, there's really nothing I can do to help. FKU. If I can make you the Queen of God, I will take your last name. When did I ever say I wanted to be the Queen of Gods? I clearly wanted to be the executive vice-god king. Li Chengfeng was a little exasperated. Hela, think about it. Your father allowed these two fools to mess around in the 9 realms, and instead sealed you on Earth when you were determined to strengthen Asgard. Are you angry? Are you sad? Then beat him up. Your brother will not become useful unless he is beaten. Although the scene of Hela beating up the two brothers did look spectacular, Li Chengfeng was the most dedicated agent in the FBI, so he still led the rest of his men out of the cell and left the 3 siblings some private space as a family. There are too many main players, so Hela may not be able to perform well. It is estimated that Night Sky Sword has been summoned at this time. Li Chengfeng took one last look inside the cell, then made the sign of the cross on his chest with one hand, made Taoist hand gestures with his hand, then shouted Amitabha and strode out the door. Harley Quinn, he seemed to have done a lot of things just now. King Ada, if you use religion as a joke, be careful of being reported. After leaving the cell, Li Chengfeng no longer had the heart to play memes. Because that was just a way to relax before proceeding to the next step of work. There are 3 people in the pit, 2 of whom are well-known criminals, but they only care about making money and are not very harmful. As for the other one, Li Chengfeng looked at Wanda, who was standing behind him. He is a magician, a very good magician, but now he is completely controlled by my green light of will. He can neither cast seals nor chant spells. But you must pay attention to him when you escort him, because he is a scumbag with no bottom line. Yes, Captain. Wanda nodded hurriedly. She was not used to Li Chengfeng's performance of tasks yet, so she said timidly, Big Sister Hella taught me how to manipulate my own magical energy in the past month. If it is a magician who cannot fight back, then I should be able to seal her power temporarily. Very good, then I'll leave Constantine to you. As they spoke, several people had already walked down to the bottom of the pit. McRory continued to beat Constantine relentlessly. Li Chengfeng rubbed his eyes. Well? Did you just see the scene in the prison cell? They all beat people into pig heads. Is this the legendary sense of déjà vu? However, the gap between McRory with his butt sticking out and the Asgard Queen is really too big. They're all butts, why should we look at McRory's? Isn't hella delicious? Okay, McRory, stop it. I think beating him into a pig's head is retribution. But McRory was a reckless man, and he was so angry that he didn't listen to anyone. Li Chengfeng rubbed his eyebrows in annoyance. Pietro, wake him up. Okay, Captain. Pietro gave Li Chengfeng a brilliant smile that he had never shown a month ago, and then disappeared in an instant. Perhaps in the eyes of ordinary people, they can only see Quicksilver Pietro rushing out like a flash of lightning, but Li Chengfeng can clearly see Quicksilver's every move. Ever since Pietro's mutant ability stabilized, his limit speed has been increasing. But after all, it has just awakened not long ago, and its ability is limited. Currently, it is only at a level of about 600 miles per hour, which is still a long way from reaching the speed of sound. But it's enough. Pietro subdued McRory in an instant. Although Quicksilver is a mutant whose signature ability is speed, his body was also changed by the X gene in order to adapt to the ability. His cardiovascular and respiratory systems were several times more efficient than those of normal people, and his muscle tissue did not produce fatigue toxins. Although his strength could not compare with those of monsters, moving several hundred kilograms was no different from playing a game. As his speed increases, his body will evolve further. Thinking of this, Li Chengfeng suddenly thought of Barry Allen. If nothing unexpected happens, given Barry's personality and life experience, he will most likely become good running buddies with Pietro. After all, there are fathers who are as good as dead and mothers who are really dead. So miserable. Definitely, it depends on who you compare it with. Compared with an ordinary family with both parents, it is definitely miserable, but compared with my grandfather, it is much happier. At the moment, Bruce Wayne, who is far away in Gotham, is carrying out his daily training. He suddenly sneezed, leaving him a little confused. Master Bruce, are you a little too tired recently? Alfred, who was cleaning the Batcave, looked back at Bruce Wayne and said, You haven't sneezed like this in many years. It was just a sneeze, Alfred. Bruce Wayne said, and continued to train. But he had a premonition. Someone is teasing him behind his back. Li Chengfeng, who had just thought about Batman in his mind, looked at McRory, who was beaten into a dumpling by Pietro, walked up and squatted beside Constantine. Can you still talk, Constantine? Whoa. Whoa. Let me go. I won't run away. Are you crazy? Do you think I'm that white duck egg that can read your thoughts? Li Chengfeng rolled his eyes. I will let you go, but you are not allowed to run away. If you run away, I will mobilize the entire FBI to find you. Even if you hide in the deepest part of the magic world, I will find you. You should know that I have this ability. Hearing this, Constantine stopped whining and nodded hastily. Run? Run away. He now felt several powerful energies at the same time. The most conspicuous ones, besides Li Chengfeng in front of him, are 2 others. One just appeared out of nowhere in the cell. The other one appeared in the warden's office building outside the cell. Constantine's frown deepened. Even if I want to run this time, I probably won't be able to. Chapter 63. Li Chengfeng let go of Constantine without any psychological burden. Although this guy may betray and run away, he is smart. He would never run away in front of someone because the success rate is too low. Constantine's greatest strength is that he is very self-aware. Ahem, you're so cruel. You actually used this strange green light to turn into a cylinder and stuffed it into my mouth. The touch reminds me of my last ex-boyfriend. FK, I didn't let you go just to hear your dirty talk. Li Chengfeng was not interested in Constantine's pansexual love history. He was more curious about the one in the warden's office building. Who is it? Or, what exactly is it? But Li Chengfeng knew that this thing had to be of a high quality, otherwise it would not be able to knock down Thor. And Hela also said that the one who created the divine counter-magic circle must be a higher-level existence. The fact that Hela could say this meant that this being was at least a dimensional lord at the same level as Mephisto. It is even possible that he is an existence superior to level Godfather. If he were at one of those signature locations, he could use his experience to determine which great god it was. But this TNND is in Fox River Prison. The most evil thing here is the tea bag. I just want to liven up the atmosphere. Constantine lit up a cigarette even though he had a pig's head on his head. After puffing on the smoke for a while, he said the second half of the sentence, after all, if nothing unexpected happens, we will be done soon. Li Chengfeng frowned. Game over? If a scumbag like Constantine is so desperate. Who is in the warden's building? Since you have perceived the existence of the one in the warden's building, then you should also have sensed the one in the cell, right? Yes, the one in the cell is yours. Constantine asked, then patted his forehead. FK, that BD who played with fire just now was too heavy-handed, I must have a concussion. I should have thought that since you guys walked out, it means that the one in the cell is yours. With her, do we have a chance of winning? Do you think that when facing an entire universe, even if there is one more god, it will have an impact on the outcome? Li Chengfeng was not very satisfied with Constantine's answer. According to him, his task would be impossible to complete at least in a short period of time. Although the system task has no time limit and no penalty for failure, Li Chengfeng also knows that the best way is to retreat first. There is ample time. But Li Chengfeng felt aggrieved. At this moment he even wanted to shake the big guy from Kansas over. That human magician, stop exaggerating. Just when Li Chengfeng was struggling over whether to retreat or not, a female voice full of kingly dominance came from behind him. It was Hela, the goddess of death, who looked refreshed after beating up her brother. The two men who were following behind her and supporting each other were her resentful younger brothers. Li Chengfeng really didn't expect that Hela's beating would directly bring out the brotherhood between the two brothers. Fists are such a good thing. Constantine subconsciously wanted to refute Hela, but immediately realized that this was another being worthy of being called God. Honorable goddess, although I don't know your identity, I was not exaggerating just now. I can feel that it is an existence outside our universe. This kind of dimensional lord is an omniscient and invincible existence in the dimension they rule. Constantine explained. Now he really did not hide or deceive anything. And just when Agent Li just caught me, I already felt that the existence had broken through the boundaries of the universe and infiltrated his power into our universe. At the moment, at least in this prison, it has been covered by another universe. It's just a little bit of energy escaping from the cracks. Hela curled her lips. She had seen many dimension lords. He can manipulate time and reality at will, and can reshape his universe into another form in the blink of an eye. But that is only the case in their own hometown. After leaving, he is at most a level godfather. Apart from anything else, after Mephisto left the Hell dimension, he had many conflicts with the original Asgard. Both Odin and herself had fought with Mephisto. Very strong, but beatable. This human magician is still too young. Hela, are you sure about what you just said? Li Chengfeng walked forward and asked in a low voice. Hela's answer would determine whether he could complete this mission. At most, he is level godfather. Hela was absolutely certain. No matter how powerful the dimensional lords and plain Mephistos are, they all have to pay a price for their omnipotence in their hometown. Hearing this, Li Chengfeng breathed a sigh of relief. It seems that Hela thinks the same as him. With Hela's degree of strength recovery and Li Chengfeng's current ability, it should be no problem for them to face an ordinary level godfather together. How can you be so sure that it's just the power that escaped? Constantine frowned and asked the goddess of death a question. Even a man like him who has no bottom line would choose to argue to the end if he was refuted in the area he is most proud of. Because if the Dimension Lord really overlapped and covered this area through some means, then we would not even have the chance to speak just now. We would be directly turned into nothingness by the guy who rules this dimension and have never existed. Hela at the moment had already walked to Li Chengfeng and stood still. She pulled Li Chengfeng into her arms with unparalleled dominance. My queen, you don't have to worry. In addition to my theory, the most obvious evidence is that you were able to activate the teleportation magic just now. Li Chengfeng was stunned. It seemed to be true. I am no longer the rookie who had just mastered the magic of teleportation but couldn't even tell the difference between dimensional teleportation and ordinary teleportation. Ordinary portals can only connect two locations in the same dimension. This shows that this prison definitely still belongs to the current dimension. But don't be too happy too soon. Although this human magician made a wrong judgment, there is a reason for it. Hela lowered her head and whispered to Li Chengfeng, someone in this prison has collected artifacts or items related to this dimensional lord. Through the power of the same source, the descending dimensional lord may become more powerful. Why do you like to breathe heavily even when you talk? Li Chengfeng was a little amused. In other words, the enemy is not necessarily an ordinary level godfather, but a top-level godfather. After a moment's hesitation, he heard Phil Coulson's voice again on the communicator. Li. Are you all right? Sky and Ingrid just discovered a rapidly expanding energy entity in Fox River Prison. You guys also detected it? Li Chengfeng was stunned. How strong is it? The distance is too far, and the monitoring equipment cannot make detailed measurements, but the various indexes are higher than when the goddess of death Hela entered the FBI headquarters. The information Phil Coulson brought in time confirmed that there is a level godfather in the warden's building who is stronger than the current Hela. Looking at the team members behind him, Li Chengfeng sighed. Forget it. I can't drag my teammates who haven't developed yet into a battle of this level in advance. Just as he opened his mouth to give the order to retreat, a green light suddenly appeared in Li Chengfeng's hand, forcing him to swallow the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He didn't summon the green lantern to charge the ring? Asgardian, there's something to do with the power of the emotional spectrum. A childish voice sounded from the green lantern furnace. Li Chengfeng was really stunned this time. What the hell? How come my green light furnace can speak human language? Has it become a spirit? And he's a Shota. He quickly picked up the green lantern, but there was no sign of him transforming to repay his gratitude. Please stop imagining those dirty pictures in your mind, okay? I'm still a child. What does that mean? They still have a connection? Li Chengfeng looked towards the small window with the green light, and sure enough, he saw the little ion shark spinning around excitedly. A very human expression appeared on that small and delicate head. If Li Chengfeng guessed correctly, this expression is called speechless. Are you an ion shark? Yes, dear Asgardian, it is me. You just said that this so-called Dimension Lord is related to the emotional spectrum. Yes. Then I can't go. A top-level godfather with the power of the emotional spectrum, are my team going to deliver food to him? I can help you, but I'm too young now. I can only merge with you for 1 minute at most. Merge? Fusion with Ion Shark? Li Chengfeng slapped his forehead suddenly. Yes. I have the killer weapon, the light beast. Even if it's just for a minute. Li Chengfeng made a decision immediately. Ada, you, Harley, and Wanda and her brother, escort these 3 criminals back to the FBI and stand by. Hela, Loki, come with me to meet that damn lord. After Li Chengfeng finished speaking, he opened the portal. Although Ada Wong and Harley Quinn expressed concern in their eyes, they also understood that a battle of this level was not something that mortals like them could get involved in. So he chose to obey Li Chengfeng's orders. After seeing off the team members, Li Chengfeng looked at Thor and asked, "Don't you want to go see the guy who imprisoned you here? After I see him, can I beat him up?" "Definitely. Then let's go." Seeing that her brother seemed to be a little more normal after being beaten, Hela simply handed Mjolnir back to Thor. Thor's condition immediately recovered, and with a loud bang he smashed a big hole in the outer wall of the cell. What comes into view is the prison governor's building. However, at this moment, the Victorian-style building has completely turned blood red. And a huge amount of figure is standing in front of the building at this moment, also covered in blood red. I have been waiting for a long time, ants. When you die, you will cry out my real name in despair, my name. Crimson Lord, Sidorak. Chapter 64. Sidorak? The Sidorak who created Juggernaut? Li Chengfeng frowned as he looked at the tall human figure whose armor, skin, and energy covering his body were all blood red. Even among those well-known dimension lords and plain Mephistos, Sidorak is the most powerful one. His control over the original Crimson Universe makes him the top dimensional lord. But Sidorak is different from that St. Mephisto. Mephisto is keen to personally descend to the earth to get involved in various major events. It was he who caused maggots to grow on the Celestials, it was he who seduced Adam and Eve to eat the fruit of wisdom, it was he who created Ghost Rider on Earth, it was he who bewitched young Thanos to invade the ancient Earth. It is no exaggeration to say that Mephisto runs through the entire human history. Compared to Mephisto, Sidorak can be said to be at the other extreme. Sidorak seems to have a slight interest in things outside the Crimson Universe, but this interest cannot prompt him to leave his Crimson Throne. Therefore, the way he influences the real universe is to materialize his power into objects and then project them into the real universe. For example, the famous Juggernaut Cain Marco is a product of Sidorak. As the non-blood-related brother of White Duck Egg, he gained the powerful divine power from Mephisto of this plane through contact with Sidorak's Crimson Ruby. Theoretically, Juggernaut is strong enough to compete with the Savage Hulk. Some even believe that he can even fight against Green Sorrow in his normal state. But the fact is, Juggernaut can't be considered a first-line villain most of the time. In addition to the editor's credit, there is also the fact that Sidorak's power will be greatly reduced after leaving the Crimson Universe. However, these are only said in reference to Juggernaut and the Crimson Ruby of Sidorak. After all, the one on Juggernaut is just one of them. Legend has it that Sidorak released 8 deep rubies into the real universe. Maybe the 8-in-1 is the true power of Juggernaut or even the Sidorak duplication. The person in front of him was over 4 meters tall and looked similar to Juggernaut, but was definitely different. Li Chengfeng could confirm that the Crimson Giant in front of him was definitely stronger than the current goddess of death Hela. But this is so unreasonable. It's just as illogical for him to call himself Sidorak. Li Chengfeng didn't think that the ruler of the Crimson Universe would sit idle and wait for an Asgard god to descend to Earth. Dear Asgardian! Do you feel the terrifying red energy emanating from that person in the distance? How can I not feel it? This powerful force is as conspicuous as a searchlight in the dark night. That is red in the emotional spectrum, representing the spectral energy of rage and hatred. The voice of the ionic shark emerged in Li Chengfeng's mind. Li Chengfeng heard this and then he calmed down and felt it seriously. Sure enough, the red energy emanating from the surroundings actually reacted slightly with the uncontrolled green light of will, which fully proved that this was the rage red light belonging to the emotional spectrum. But Ion Shark, in addition to the power of the emotional spectrum, this red light should also contain powers from other dimensions or even other universes, right? Yes, in addition to the rage red light, there is another crimson power in these crimson energies, which accounts for a considerable proportion. And the nature of the energy is so compatible with the rage red light, so even if the red light furnace has not been created, the rage red light can be integrated into itself for control. Although the ion sharks in Li Chengfeng's lamp furnace are in a newborn state, as natural and naturally born lamp beasts, a lot of knowledge is imprinted in their consciousness by the entire universe. The power of the Crimson Universe is very compatible with the rage red light, which was within Li Chengfeng's expectations. Those who become juggernauts will always sink into the abyss of rage and destruction. Even if they are strong-willed and can suppress this desire for a period of time, they will eventually fall. The power of the Crimson Universe is not so easy to control. And through the confirmation of the ionic shark, Li Chengfeng has deduced what the monster in front of him is. The power of the Crimson Universe probably comes from the Crimson Ruby of Sidorak, and there is probably more than one. In addition, he used some means to discover and manipulate part of the rage red light, and finally combined the two, which attracted the gaze of Mephisto sitting on the throne in the distant Crimson Universe. So the Crimson Universe temporarily invaded the real universe, and the combination of the power of the Crimson Universe and the red light of rage became the carrier of Mephisto Sidorak's consciousness. So there is nothing wrong with him calling himself Sidorak, because his consciousness is indeed Sidorak. But he is definitely not Sidorak. The only reason he has such powerful strength is because of Sidorak's interest in him. He probably wants to see what other tricks he can come up with. Otherwise, at most, she would be at the same level as Hela now. If he just thought he could fight against the true god Mephisto in this dimension just now because of the trump card of Ionic Shark, he is now completely relieved. Possessing two mixed energies is generally very powerful, but such people also have a common weakness. Unstable. Ion Shark mentioned that the reason why the rage red light was controlled, besides being attracted by the same energy, was that the original red light had not yet been created. Ownerless energy is naturally easier to control. But what if there is an owner? For Atrocitus in the original novel, creating the lantern ring might require metaphysics and magic, but Li Chengfeng already has a way. Since Crimson Ruby can attract and control rage red light, wouldn't it be wonderful to use Crimson Ruby as a medium to create a red light furnace? Li Chengfeng suddenly became inexplicably excited. After all, this kind of behavior seems to be considered a kind of NTR? Hella, what chance do the two of us plus your brothers have against that guy? Winning or losing depends on a hair's breadth. The strength of energy may not necessarily be reflected in combat effectiveness. But what is certain is that this battle will last a very long time. As Hela spoke, she strode out of the big hole that Thor had smashed open. With every step you take, a night sky sword appears in the air. Sister! Let me lend you a helping hand. Thor excitedly chased after Hela, Mjolnir spinning rapidly in Thor's hand. Crackling lightning kept ringing around Thor, and blue arcs flashed across his eyes. Compared with the big golden-haired guy who was beaten just now, Thor now looks more like the god of thunder. This is different from the surging fighting spirit of Hela and Thor, their siblings. Loki was more willing to be more careful. Lee, is that guy who calls himself Sidorak really the Mephisto from that dimension that is said to have arrived? What you think? Just looking at this guy's original strength, he's very strong. Even my eldest sister is outshined by him. But if this is the real Mephisto of this dimension, isn't it too weak? That's right, he's just an impostor who carries a trace of Sidorak's gaze. Li Chengfeng patted his shoulder, just like your sister said, powerful energy does not necessarily have corresponding combat power. You three Asgard siblings should be able to deal with him, so, go. Pokemon. You are the Pokemon. Your whole family is Pokemon. Loki complained subconsciously, and then suddenly reacted, what do you mean by that? What do you mean that the three Asgard siblings can deal with him? What about you? I am a high-level FBI agent. As your leader, I definitely have to do things that leaders are good at. Before Loki could spit out the curse words in his heart, he saw a big golden-haired guy flying backwards and hitting him. In the name of Odinson. What a powerful enemy. Thor stood up and stretched his muscles. Li Chengfeng secretly admired in his heart, he really is worthy of being the big golden retriever who has the possibility of surpassing Odin in the future. His physique is so powerful, he is obviously not a level godfather yet, but after being knocked away by a level godfather, he has no obvious injuries except for being a little embarrassed. Loki, what are you still dawdling about here for? Thor looked up and saw Loki. Without saying a word, he grabbed the other's collar and flew out. Thor. You number you in percent, and asterisk and. Looking at the two brothers flying away, Li Chengfeng pretended to wipe away the non-existent tears from the corners of his eyes. Ah, what an enviable brotherhood. Then he also walked out of the big hole. However, Li Chengfeng did not rush to the battlefield where he was fighting against Sidorak. Instead, he went around it and entered the building that was also dyed crimson from the side. Fighting? Li Chengfeng smiled. Friends, I am a high-level agent, not a gladiator. Do I have to fight every battle myself? Moreover, our dear team members have just experienced an armed training march from the goddess of death. Isn't this a test of the training results? It's definitely not that he wants to exploit the Asgard laborers, absolutely not. For an FBI agent, solving problems and completing tasks are the top priorities, and efficiency is the most important. At this moment, Li Chengfeng was going to rush directly into the Crimson's rear while the three Asgard siblings were fighting with Sidorak. Li Chengfeng always felt that the building behind Sidorak was the place where the problem could be solved fundamentally. As expected, the moment Li Chengfeng stepped into the red building from another direction, the Sidorak that was fighting the three Asgard siblings suddenly focused its attention on him and rushed towards Li Chengfeng regardless. But unfortunately, it was blocked by Hela in time. Hela, he is indeed guarding something. You guys hold him back and let me handle everything inside. Although in the midst of a great battle with level Godfather, Hela's voice still reached Li Chengfeng's ears. Be careful, my queen. As it should be, my god king. Chapter 65. After officially stepping into the building, everything that comes into view is scarlet. Damn it, I really don't know who came up with these things. At least this grandson's aesthetic taste is completely screwed. Apart from scarlet and crimson, he doesn't even know how to use other colors. Look! Scarlet walls! What kind of person would decorate their house like this? As Li Chengfeng spoke, he used his will to materialize a huge sword with an overly fantastic style in green light. With a swish, the big sword stabbed into the wall easily like inserting tofu. Then he easily drew a circle and cut a piece from the wall. Li Chengfeng looked at the red energy in his hand. After a part of it came into contact with the green light of will, it suddenly seemed to boil and reacted. Ion Shark, shouldn't the opposite of rage's red light be hope's blue light? Why would it become so violently hostile when it comes into contact with the most neutral will's green light? This is just a summary of the opposing attributes of the emotional spectrum. In fact, when the rage red light comes into contact with the energy of any other emotional spectrum, it will become antagonistic. The power of the emotional spectrum is more extreme as it moves toward the edge. Li Chengfeng nodded. Indeed, this can be seen from the performance of each lantern group in the original work. Red Lantern Corps is pure madness. The Star Sapphire Corps, also known as the Purple Lantern Corps, is a love-minded group. Rage and love are the things that can easily drive people into extremes. Is this an emotional spectrum or a philosophy textbook? Li Chengfeng muttered, threw the cut wall away, and continued to walk deeper. The building is very tall, but it actually has only 4 floors. Each floor has extremely high ceilings. But unlike what one might have imagined, there was no internal guarding force on the first 3 floors. It was just an empty scarlet building, revealing a bit of weirdness in its silence. Tada, tada. Throughout the entire building, apart from the occasional sound of Thor and Loki greeting each other during the battle, the only sound that echoed throughout the building was Li Chengfeng's own footsteps. Every time Li Chengfeng went up a floor, he would conduct a thorough search. But without exception, there was nothing wrong except the scarlet energy. Now he had reached the 3rd floor, and conducted the same search, but still found nothing. Just as Li Chengfeng sat down on an office chair with a little exasperation, he stared closely at the door leading to the 4th floor at the end of the stairs in front of him. There was an extremely dense scarlet energy blocking the way, and its energy intensity was actually no less than that of the entity outside that called itself Sidorak. Such a strong defense. This means that behind this layer of energy, there is definitely a real person behind the scenes. Li Chengfeng took a deep breath, turned on the communicator and tried to contact Sky and Ingrid, but found that the communicator had failed. Even when it was turned on, only a rustling noise could be heard. This is the FBI's most advanced communicator, capable of long-term, noise-free communication between the ground and the space station. Just now I could still hear the sound of the 3 Asgard siblings fighting Sidorak, but now it seems as if this thing never happened. In other words, the reality here has been distorted in a certain sense. Strictly speaking, the area where Li Chengfeng is located is no longer the original universe. But this is just a wall, a barrier. It still can't compare to the real conscious entity out there. Li Chengfeng twisted his neck, and after a cracking sound, he finally stood up from the chair. I have to do such dangerous work every day. The job of a high-level agent is not for people. This time when I go back, I must ask the 2 old men, black and white, to give me some gold coins. Li Chengfeng muttered, and then he activated all his abilities. In fact, in terms of power, there is no difference between the original Green Lantern and the level Godfather, except that it does not have those mysterious abilities. Even under the bombardment of the original Green Lantern, the Scarlet Barrier was not reduced quickly. But there is no better way at this time. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes. A full half-hour passed before Li Chengfeng finally dug a hole in the barrier that was big enough for him to barely get through. This thing is really tough. It is indeed mixed with the power from the Crimson Universe. No wonder Juggernaut's ability is reflected in the indestructibility and immortality of the body. Li Chengfeng muttered and slowly squeezed in through the hole. Finally, he arrived at the 4th floor which had been hidden behind the energy barrier. On the stairs at the beginning, it was no different from before, the same scarlet, the same weirdness and dead silence. But once you actually walk up the stairs and enter the space on the 4th floor, you'll feel suddenly enlightened. This is a huge amount of office, bright and warm. Most importantly, the walls were not the scarlet color that we had seen so often, but ordinary beige wallpaper. Li Chengfeng looked towards the desk at the back. A white man with a sinister and fierce appearance was sitting behind the desk. However, he was not wearing a uniform that showed off the power and status of a prison warden. Instead, he wore a white coat over his shirt. Those bulging muscles can hardly be contained, okay? She is a character that could fit right into a work like Bakey's with just a photo, but she is dressed up like a researcher. Only then did Li Chengfeng realize that the water margin was not deceiving him, and he understood what dressed like a scholar meant. But when the man raised his head and let Li Chengfeng see his eyes, Li Chengfeng overturned all his previous conclusions. Wisdom, madness, and self-destruction flashed in those eyes at the same time, and Li Chengfeng couldn't help but nod secretly. Well, these eyes really have the flavor of a mad scientist. It just doesn't fit this body well. You are very interesting. You were able to defeat my subordinates and break through the barrier I set up to come to me. I hope you can bring me enough pleasure. Li Chengfeng's eyes twitched. Then he walked up to him and slapped the guy who was muttering the villain's lines to the ground. Ouch! How can you be so unsportsmanlike? Nonsense! I'm not a member of your weird game, why should I talk to you about martial ethics? And you're spouting the cocky lines of a middle school boss. How old are you, bro? Ahem, all men who die are teenagers. The muscular man in the white coat was not angry at all. He just covered his face and sat up from the floor. At this time, Li Chengfeng also saw that on the desk not far away, there were several objects emitting faint red light. But Li Chengfeng's attention was all attracted by this so-called warden, so he didn't notice it. He walked right past the warden and came to the desk. I saw 4 red gems neatly placed in a tray. Then, there was a blood-red bowl the size of a palm, lying on top of these 4 gems and snoring. This gem is obviously the famous Crimson Ruby of Sidorak. According to legend, 8 of them were sent into the real universe, but now 4 of them have been collected together. As for the thing sleeping soundly on Sidorak's Crimson Ruby, Ion Shark, if I'm not mistaken, this should be a lantern beast, right? Yes, this is the lamp beast born in the red light of rage, the blood slaughter bull. The voice of the Ion Shark sounded again. I didn't expect that the ancestor red lamp furnace had not yet been formed, but it actually ran out of the red light of rage. Perhaps these 4 crimson rubies can, in a sense, also become carriers of lamp beasts like the original red lamp furnace. Li Chengfeng was delighted when he thought of this. In other words, he could directly use these existing materials to complete the last step and actually build the red light furnace to carry and control the blood slaughter bull and the surging rage red light. Instead of using this power in an extremely primitive way like it is now. However, when Li Chengfeng thought of this, he turned around and asked the guy who was still sitting on the ground and refused to get up, "Who are you, and why did you not become a corrupted being like Juggernaut after coming into contact with the Crimson Ruby of Sidorak, but instead collected the Crimson Ruby and became a breeding ground for Rage's red light and blood bull?" "Me? I'm just a poor guy who can never die." The warden stood up and walked to Li Chengfeng. Li Chengfeng looked at the man again and found that the ruby pendant on his neck was of a strange style. At least it doesn't match his clothes at all. "I am not interested in whether you can die or not, or whether you are pitiful or not. What I want you to tell me is why you can resist the power of this red gem." Li Chengfeng stretched out his hand and placed the big sword embodied by the green light of his will on the opponent's shoulder. But the warden didn't care about being threatened by the sharp weapon. Instead, he turned around and sat down across from the desk. "You mean the voice that once said it would give me immortality and make me a juggernaut?" You heard Sidorak's voice and did not fall. His words actually have that kind of effect. The warden scratched his head in surprise. "I just rejected him. To be honest, his words are too low level, far inferior to those of professional scammers." "Is the problem words? His power won't let you go just because you refuse." "Oh, you mean this?" Unexpectedly, the warden seemed to remember something, pointed outside the gate, and said with a silly smile, "The entity outside is my previous self." "What the hell?" Li Chengfeng was completely confused by the other party's words. "What does the previous me mean? I have to say, there is more fun in your universe than I imagined. Oh, by the way, I haven't introduced myself yet, right? It's been a long time since I last had this kind of normal communication with other people, so it's inevitable that I'm a little uncomfortable. My name is Jack Bright. If you don't like it, someone in a certain universe once gave me a nickname, called Dr. Liang Liang." Chapter 66. Dr. Liang Liang? Li Chengfeng suddenly felt a mouthful of blood rising to his throat. Damn, how come there are these troublemakers in this universe? Are you Dr. Bright? One of the 4 doctors of Apocalypse in the Foundation. Oh. You know about the Foundation? It seems you are also a traveler from another universe. Other universes? Also? In other words, this world doesn't have such a thing as the foundation. That depends on what time you use as the standard. Dr. Liang put his hands behind his back, looking mysterious. In the past, there was no foundation. Definitely, there is no foundation now. But in the future, there will definitely be one. Li Chengfeng slapped Dr. Liang on the forehead without any hesitation. Speak human language. Don't tell me riddles. The riddle teller must die. Li Chengfeng's slap directly hit Dr. Liang's forehead on the table, and blood oozed out instantly. Cough cough cough. What a grumpy guy. But Dr. Liang seemed to be used to it and didn't care much whether the body was injured. 2. After all, he is now equivalent to the Lich in the Western fantasy world. As long as SCP-963, which serves as the life box, is not destroyed, he will be immortal. But can this state really be considered alive? Li Chengfeng had never imagined this feeling, nor did he dare to imagine it. After all, when it comes to things related to the Foundation, the greater the profit, the greater the cost. As a guy sneaking between universes, don't complain about others' rudeness to you. Who knows if your native universe will trace your whereabouts and attract those damn anomalies. Li Chengfeng looked at Dr. Liang. Although most of the stuff from the SCP Foundation isn't that powerful, there are still some tricks to those supreme deities. Definitely, the shame of the supreme divinity are just so-so, we can't say they are bad, but judging from their performance, they are essentially level Godfather. But there are also supreme deities with high performance, enough to compete with those real monsters. Judging from the current level of development of the universe, if we really encounter a supreme deity with high performance, we may not be able to stop it. Unless Superman has an epiphany and reaches the level of Silver Superman, whose power is almost idealistic, it won't work. After all, those supreme deities often use methods like manipulating time and rewriting reality. Abnormal? No, I've studied the universe we're in now, and there's no so-called abnormal. In other words, you're all abnormal. Dr. Liang spread his hands. He knew what Li Chengfeng was afraid of. Look, aren't those so-called dimensional lords and plane Mephistos of yours similar to the supreme deities recorded by the Foundation? And what's the difference between you Supermans and abnormalities? It's just that most of you can accept universal values. This is why I say that organizations similar to the Foundation will definitely appear in the future, because with the development of human society, no one can guarantee that every Superman will be a person with normal values. Li Chengfeng was silent. In a sense, there is nothing wrong with Dr. Liang's evaluation of this universe. The strength of those first-line heroes and villains is far beyond the reach of those anomalies in the Foundation. That is, those old-fashioned classic anomalous entities can be touched. But it's just a touch. Do you still expect shy people or immortal evil lizards to kill characters like the big guy in Kansas? So what are you going to do? I am very interested in your universe. It is so interesting. It is much more interesting than facing those bizarre anomalies. Tisk, we still have to thank you. What? You can thank me if you want. Forget it. You like to attack my head. Li Chengfeng rolled his eyes. He had originally lost some interest in this crazy scientist who was essentially insane. Okay, I don't want to say more to you. If you don't want to be thrown into a dark room deep in the ocean trench as a pendant for the rest of your life, then cooperate with me. You must be kidding, right? Dr. Liang's expression finally began to become unnatural. He was not afraid of physical death, but he could not accept the eternal dark imprisonment. Thinking of this, Dr. Liang scratched his head with his hands, turning his originally relatively smooth hair into a tangled mess. Well, I'm really defeated by you black-handed and heartless FBI agents. FK, how dare people from the Foundation say that others have evil hands and bad hearts? After Li Chengfeng refuted Dr. Liang, he pointed to the 4 Sidorak crimson rubies on the table and the sleeping blood slaughter bowl lying on it and said, if nothing unexpected happens, do you want to use these 4 deep red rubies as a basis to create a device that can manipulate the red light of rage? Rage? Red light? Is that your general term for this red energy? No, only part of it. The other part is from the plane of Mephisto in the Crimson Universe. So that's how it is. That's right, if my research is correct, these two forces with extremely similar properties can accommodate each other, but just what? It's just that I haven't been able to find a way to change the form of these gems. These are indeed divine creations. They are too strong. It seems that a highly intelligent person like Dr. Liang has also thought of creating a device that can carry and manipulate two kinds of energy, but he just does not have the corresponding means to complete his idea. Li Chengfeng looked at the deep red ruby on the table, thought for a moment, then reached out and picked up one. Dr. Liang wanted to reach out to stop him, but Li Chengfeng's hand was too fast. It was so fast that the blood slaughter bowl didn't react and was still sleeping on the other 3 gems, but its drooping hoof looked a little funny. Hey! What do you want to do? You can't just use the pendant to change your body like I can. You don't have to worry about that. You should think carefully about what kind of contribution you can make after you come back with me, right? What kind of contribution can I make? When did I agree to go back to the FBI with you? The FBI or the little black box at the bottom of the ocean? Choose one. FK, do I even need to choose? Dr. Liang raised his hand, definitely choose the great FBI. Li Chengfeng snorted, and seeing that the red light emitted by the gem in his hand was getting brighter and brighter, he stopped bullying Dr. Liang and instead strengthened his will. Since the nature of Sidorak's power in the Crimson Universe is almost identical to the red light of rage, the green light of will definitely have a restraining effect on Sidorak's power. Fair mortal, I am Sidorak. You will become my believer, my spokesperson on earth. You'll be a juggernaut. Chapter 67. Hearing this voice, even though Li Chengfeng possessed the green light of will, he couldn't help but be stunned. When he came to his senses, Li Chengfeng found himself in a deep temple where everything was scarlet. Unlike the prison building that was forcibly dyed with red energy, the deep scarlet color here was extremely natural, as if it was born to be this color. Li Chengfeng looked into the depths of the crimson temple shrouded in darkness. He should go inside. That's right, go inside. Such a thought inexplicably emerged in Li Chengfeng's mind, and then Li Chengfeng reacted immediately. Unexpectedly, even with Batman's willpower, enough to awaken and drive the original Green Lantern ring, he was still affected by Sidorak's consciousness. Should I say? Is he worthy of being the most powerful Mephisto? The invisible pressure has begun to make Li Chengfeng's spine numb. Then Li Chengfeng walked inside without any hesitation. It's just a little bit of wind and frost, laughs. It looked dark outside the temple, but as soon as you took the first step inside, everything around you started to light up. I don't know where the light came from, but Li Chengfeng's eyes suddenly lit up. The long scarlet corridor extended inward almost infinitely, and Li Chengfeng walked for an unknown amount of time. He seemed to have temporarily lost his ability to sense time. What is certain is that the Crimson Universe where Sidorak is located is completely different from the real universe in terms of the speed of time flow, physical properties, and so on. Li Chengfeng walked another 200 steps, and the corridor that seemed endless suddenly came to an end. After taking a step forward, the view in front of me finally became clear. The interior of the temple before us seemed to be floating in the center of the entire universe. There were no crimson walls in front, behind, or on either side, but rather endless space. Definitely, even the universe is filled with scarlet. Li Chengfeng raised his head. At some point, an extremely tall person suddenly appeared on the crimson throne in front of him. Human, you are very interesting. Sidorak, you weird hairy gods like to say to people you are very interesting. Li Chengfeng curled his lips, looking speechless. No, human named Li Chengfeng, I think you are interesting from the bottom of my heart. Sidorak leaned forward slightly, and the huge body on the throne was finally fully revealed in front of Li Chengfeng. The armor on his body is exactly the same as that of the Juggernauts. This further proves that Juggernaut is essentially a vehicle that allows Sidorak to descend into the real universe when needed. Dr. Liang's previous body, the Sidorak who is currently fighting the 3 Asgard siblings, is essentially also a Juggernaut. Juggernaut is nothing more than a combination of Rage's red light and a trace of Sidorak's consciousness, completely becoming a duplication of Sidorak. If nothing unexpected happens, this is the price that those who enjoy the power of Juggernaut's eternal immortality will pay. One day in the future, they will become the vessel of Sidorak, and their original consciousness and soul will turn into nothingness the moment Sidorak descends. They are clearly eternal and immortal, yet they are destined to be destroyed. What an ironic fate! As a Mephisto who belongs to another dimension, I'm not sure whether you have a so-called inner heart. Whether it's the body or the soul, the structure is completely beyond the understanding of ordinary people. Ha ha ha, you can actually think so much. Sidorak replied, all creatures that became juggernauts in the past would be immersed in power and destruction the moment they saw the temple, but you can actually walk in front of me, talk to me, and even look me in the face. That's because I know that this is just a projection of the Crimson Ruby taking me into the Crimson Universe. Li Chengfeng was also very surprised that apart from the whisper belonging to Sidorak's power actually had no original effect on Li Chengfeng. The green light of will, the Dionysus factor, and some of the Kryptonian traits. You are better than any juggernaut in the past. No, you are better than all juggernauts combined. Sidorak did not deny what Li Chengfeng said, but he could see through Li Chengfeng's ability with just one glance, and even discovered the Dionysus factor. You know, even Batman, the father of DC Comics, couldn't detect the presence of Dionysus factor in Joker's blood, but it exists. Sidorak can do it. I can only say that he is worthy of being the strongest plain, Mephisto. I never said I was going to be a juggernaut. That's not up to you. Sidorak said as the entire Crimson Universe began to flicker with red light. A thought can affect one's own native universe. Li Chengfeng was still sighing when he heard the anxious voice of the Ion Shark. Asgardian. Quick! Merge with me now. Otherwise you will really be pulled into the Crimson Universe. Li Chengfeng was a little dumbfounded when he heard what Ionic Shark said. Why can Dr. Liang run away after a stern refusal, but when it is his turn, he will be dragged into the Crimson Universe? He didn't believe that Dr. Liang could escape. It was just that Sidorak's interest in Dr. Liang was not enough for him to do so. Are you really that greedy for his body? Li Chengfeng immediately began to feel something was wrong, and everything around him was gradually becoming more real. He is detaching from the real universe. FK. This guy is serious. Li Chengfeng immediately summoned the ancestor Green Lantern Furnace. The Ionic Shark no longer stayed in the lamp furnace and swam continuously, but jumped out and drilled into Li Chengfeng's lamp ring. Asgardian. Since I am only a newborn lantern beast, our combined state cannot last long. Like I told you before, it will only last for a minute. Is 1 minute enough? That's enough. The next moment, Li Chengfeng's green light battlesuit changed slightly, and the mask formed by the green light of will covered Li Chengfeng's overly handsome face. In the next minute, Li Chengfeng will become the strongest form of green light. Ion Man. The power of the Ion Shark was handed over to Li Chengfeng without reservation, and in an instant he completely mastered the power of the Ion Man. Since Ion Shark is just a newborn, in addition to the time limit, his state is not at the peak of Ion Shark, so he cannot directly control time and rewrite reality, but it is enough to resist the will and power of Sidorak spreading from the Crimson Universe. 30 seconds. In just 30 seconds, Li Chengfeng cut off all contact with Sidorak, and in the blink of an eye, the space he was in was transformed into the Warden's building. I underestimated you. Even the new lamp beasts were born in your lamp furnace. I'm very curious, what kind of storm will you stir up in the real universe? I will always keep an eye on you. Sidorak's voice grew fainter and fainter, until it finally faded into nothingness. Chapter 68. Always watching you? Grass. Just by looking at this sentence, I thought it was a stalker who came out from some corner. And it's the kind that tracks you from the internet to the coffee shop around the corner from your house. Alas. It's really disgusting when you think about it. Tisk, these dimensional Mephistos are all a bit perverted. Li Chengfeng just muttered something, and immediately the voice of Ion Shark rang in his ears. FK. You damn Asgardian. You still have the time to think about this? Have you forgotten that my tender body can only hold out for a minute? Hurry up and use the remaining time to deal with these gems. When Li Chengfeng heard the sound of the Ion Shark's extremely weak kidneys, he almost burst out laughing. The physique of the young lamp beast is really not very good. But the short ones are also cute, ha 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 ha. Li Chengfeng laughed in his heart, then reached out to the 4 crimson gems and the blood-slaughtering bull. Little shark, please be more careful. The blood-slaughter bull, who had just been sleeping like a dead bull, finally woke up with a start when he felt the power unique to the Ionic Shark coming towards him, and was half dazed and half stupid. Surprisingly, it was a soft and tender lowly voice, but the lines had nothing to do with softness. Moo? Snacks? Where are the snacks? Are there any snacks that I, a lamp beast, can eat? What the hell, Ion Shark? Little Maverick, relax. Li Chengfeng grinned, his smile was so harmless. Definitely, this is just his good self-image, but in the eyes of the blood slaughter bull, this is the ion shark gathering a group of brutal and unscrupulous humans to capture these carefree lamp beasts. Ion shark. Bull, I have never provoked your green light of will, have I? Why are you targeting me first? Help! Kill the bull! Okay, stop being sad. Li Chengfeng flicked the blood slaughter bull's head with his finger. He was still in the Ion Man state, and this flick directly made the blood slaughter bull become paralyzed. The power of the native lamp beast is great, but in order to unleash it, it must merge with the owner of the lamp ring. What Li Chengfeng is preparing to create but has not yet created is the ancestor red lantern. In other words, now the blood slaughter bull is just a small figurine that looks quite intimidating. 15 seconds left. Hurry. Okay, stop rushing me. Why don't you just change your name to Death Shark? After Li Chengfeng agreed, he began to shape the original red lantern using the deep red ruby as the base. Using the maximum ability that Ion could mobilize, he analyzed 4 crimson rubies and then condensed them into the shape of a lamp. While the shape was changing, Li Chengfeng also began to change the properties of the crimson ruby by relying on his ability to partially influence reality. How many steps are needed to make the original red light? Answer: 3 steps. The first step is to erase its connection with the crimson universe. The second step is to rewrite the energy screening mechanism to make it a common carrier of deep red energy and rage red light. The third step is to put the small figurine and the bloody slaughtered cow in. Finished. Although it was the first time that Li Chengfeng used the power of Ion Man, he was very adept at using it and just managed to complete the shaping of the original red lantern furnace at the last second. He even had time to pack up all the scarlet mixed energy that enveloped the entire Fox River prison and stuff it into the red lantern furnace. Outside the prison building, the Asgard siblings were locked in a tug-of-war with Sidorak. Although the energy level is higher than the current Hela, and has the awareness brought by Sidorak's gaze. But a knockoff is still a knockoff. Although Hela and her 2 siblings were quite cautious at first when they didn't understand Sidorak's tricks. But as they fought, they discovered that although this tall red giant possessed great power, too bulky. If Li Chengfeng were here at this moment, he would be able to see the clues at a glance. Because this so-called Sidorak is still based on a juggernaut. Although the energy level has been raised, the fighting method and the essence of power have not changed. At most, because of the mixture of Rage's red light, it can spew out terrifying blood flames like maggots on the tarsal bones from its mouth. But the pre-roll is too long. Among the 3 Asgard siblings, Hela and Loki are not only proficient in magic but also agile. Even a reckless man like Thor can handle them with their speed and agility. But the problem is that the opponent's huge amounts of flaws are caused by super thick defense and health bars. By the end, Hela began to doubt whether she could handle this super sandbag even if she was at her peak. However, when a soft and shrill lowly voice was faintly heard, the originally terrifying scarlet energy suddenly faded from Sidorak like a tide, and then rushed into the warden's building. Sidorak clenched his fists, as if he was not having enough fun. Gods from Asgard, I am very satisfied with this massage. I will keep an eye on you. But the loss of power made Sidorak realize that this entertainment was over. 15th second. The Ion Man state ended, and the crunchy shark, which was suffering from extreme kidney deficiency, drilled out from Li Chengfeng's heart. The red lantern stove seemed like an altar with the sacred fire lit, burning with red light. A red lantern stove that was completely different from the original appeared in front of Li Chengfeng. Since the original material used to make the lamp is 4 deep red rubies from Sidorak, the entire lamp is made of scarlet and translucent material. Li Chengfeng picked up the red lantern with one hand without any hesitation. I saw the bloody bull circling madly in the red light furnace as if it was having fun. What the hell? As soon as awakening comes, the big bunk bed is directly changed to a big villa. You humans are quite kind-hearted. You know what's good about your brother. Li Chengfeng lifted up the lantern and hung it in front of his eyes. Why don't you hurry up and give me the red lantern ring as a thank you gift? Although you have unparalleled willpower, it seems that you don't meet the standard of a red light. What about you thinking about it? Xue Tuniu wanted to say something, but he found that the red lantern furnace was getting restless. He could only kick his calf's hooves and run to the corner, watching the energy in the lantern furnace surge and swirl, and finally condense into a translucent lantern ring made of the same material as the lantern furnace. Then it turned into a red light and rushed out of the lamp. After circling around Li Chengfeng for a long time, it finally stopped. Intelligent life has been targeted. Li Chengfeng from Earth. There is a boiling rage in your heart. You belong to the Red Lantern Corps. This scene made the blood slaughter bull, who was also a new light beast, couldn't help but shout in that tender lowly voice, "What the hell? How can a green light owner who is so calm and stable have such overwhelming anger and hatred? Are you kidding me? Little Niu, I'll teach you a lesson." Li Chengfeng was not surprised at all. Instead, he stretched out his fingers and rubbed the little Niu with a lowly voice. Every Republic citizen who has studied modern history will always have a raging anger in his heart that will never go out. As he spoke, he stretched out the hand with the green lantern ring. The red lantern ring seemed to have an automatic navigation function, and it actively avoided the index finger where the green lantern ring was, and then put it on the middle finger. The hot blood is red with anger, taken from the remains of a corpse that has not yet cooled. Deep hatred and deep resentment boil the lungs. I will forge your path to the underworld. Chapter 69. After the blood slaughter bull watched the Republic man in front of him successfully awaken the original red lantern ring, the whole body of the bull became numb. It is true that she is a newborn lamp beast, but she is just a lamp beast, and is in a symbiotic state with the ancestor lamp furnace. She can grow in the ancestral lamp furnace, and possess the owner of the lamp ring with the help of the power of the ancestral lamp furnace. She can even control the lamp furnace at certain times, but she cannot influence the lamp ring's decision on the candidates for the Legion. As a lamp beast, the blood slaughter bull, born in the red light of rage, she possesses a vast amount of knowledge and cognition that she is born with. In her impression, the apostles of the red light of rage must be in extreme rage and hatred. Even if one can control one's body and mind at the beginning, those limited human nature will sooner or later be completely wiped out in the eternal rage, and in the end only a body controlled by rage will remain. Shouldn't their faces look like they are ready to fight to the death without saying a word? After Li Chengfeng put on the original red lantern ring, not only did his anger not dominate his reason, but he also revealed a gentle smile. I originally thought that it was the resistance of the green light of will to the red light of rage that allowed him to maintain his sanity. But Xiao Niu soon discovered that because Ion Shark was forced to merge when he was a minor and temporarily became Ion Man, the energy of the original Green Lantern's lamp furnace and lamp ring were temporarily exhausted, and the Green Lantern transformation was also lifted. In other words, completely relying on one's own will? Damn it, no wonder the memory of the Lantern Beast is so poor. Don't mess with the lone Green Lantern. The green light of will has a lot of advantages when facing other colors of the emotional spectrum alone. What are you mumbling about, little calf? Little bull, I've really learned a lot this time. Blood Slaughter Bull stared with a pair of curious big bull eyes at the man who just turned from Ion Man to Red Lantern Demon. How can I describe him having both Green Lantern Ring and Red Lantern Ring at the same time? A combination of contradictions. Li Chengfeng looked at the very silly and naive lowly Blood Slaughter Bull, and suddenly felt that maybe he was destined to collect all the new lamp beasts. Grass. What kind of emotional spectrum version of the Sage of Six Paths? But speaking of lantern beasts, after freeing itself from Ion's possession, Crunchy Shark went straight back into the Green Lantern furnace and began to sleep. Li Chengfeng knew that activating Ion Man's outrageous ability would be too much of a burden for the newly born Crunchy Shark and the ancestral lamp furnace. For now, it seems that he will have to say goodbye to the Green Lantern Force for the time being. It seems that Ion Man's power can only be used as an emergency trump card in the future. After all, you can't always think about squeezing the little shark. Hearing about the kidney deficiency, he felt phantom pains in his kidneys. But the original red light can completely fill the current gap. Even in terms of destructive power and aggressiveness, the red light is even more powerful. Moreover, the original red lantern built by Li Chengfeng through the power of Ion Man does not have as many negative effects as in the original work. Although rage, hatred, and resistance to injustice will still cause the owner of the red lantern ring to fall into eternal rage, this rage can be controlled within a controllable range, perhaps because they were exposed to and integrated with the power of Ion and the green light of will when they were shaped. After the transformation, rage's red energy will still flow in his blood vessels, but the phenomenon of the ring replacing the heart or death if the ring is taken off will never occur. In a sense, the original evil attribute of the red light has been washed away. Li Chengfeng was quite satisfied with the result. He was really afraid that the Red Lantern Corps would send a group of mad vandals to smash his sign. Dr. Liang, who witnessed the whole process, had his eyes bulging and his mouth open as wide as possible. How did he create such an exaggerated cartoon expression with an ordinary face? It can't be the unique skill of their Foundation universe, right? Hey, Dr. Liang, what are you daydreaming about? Dr. Liang's soul was pulled back from the sky by Li Chengfeng's words. What had he just witnessed? It was Mephisto, or the supreme deity, entrenched in that crimson dimension of the universe, that crossed the boundaries of the universe to deal with a human. Then this human suddenly and briefly transformed into another supreme deity. No, it should be a defective supreme deity, and it seemed that he had not reached his peak state. What kind of person is this FBI agent in front of me? A Mary Nakayama who can temporarily transform while still in the three-dimensional world? He has always believed that the Foundation universe is the most bizarre among all the universes. But now he had to admit that there were still many weird things, and the Foundation was no longer worthy of the word the most, but could only be regarded as one of the. Did you just briefly rewrite reality? Whether it is severing the connection between the Supreme Godhead and the real world or rewriting the properties of the Deep Ruby, it is obviously permanent. That's not something those damned reality benders can do. And since his soul entered SCP-963, no matter which universe he is in, he will almost certainly be recognized as one of the constants by the will of the universe. In other words, any degree of reality rewriting that happens around him will be perceived by him. Well, right. Li Chengfeng scratched his head. As one of the top lanterns, Ian's high performance was extremely exaggerated. Manipulate time and rewrite reality. He even fought against the well-known bug character Superman Supreme and destroyed several universes. If we only look at the high performance of the Blood Slaughter Bull, it is still a long way from the two top lamp beasts, the Ionic Shark and the Inspector Monster, but it is much stronger than the performance of the other lamp beasts. She possessed an ordinary father whose daughter was RD and brutally killed. After brutally killing the RT, she beat up the ghost who came. The anger fueled by fatherly love is enough to burn the vengeful spirit of God. But these performances are based on the fact that the lantern groups and lantern beasts have existed and grown for a very long time. The two kindergarten-level light beasts in Li Chengfeng's hands became so weak in the kidneys that they collapsed after just a short while of combining. MD, don't call yourselves the Green Lantern Corps or the Red Lantern Corps, just change the name to Ion Shark Nursery and Bloody Cow Nursery. Then what's the difference between you and God now? Have you ever seen such a short God? Dr. Liang rolled his eyes. Nonsense. God knows whether you are acting or not. Now that the issue has been resolved, have you made a decision? Li Chengfeng used the rage red light to materialize a hot teaching stick, which lifted the ruby pendant from Dr. Liang's neck. Are you going to follow me back to the FBI? Or will you put up a futile resistance and be buried by me in a trench that will never see the light of day again? Chapter 70. When Li Chengfeng and Dr. Liang walked out of the warden's building side by side, they did not see any fighting. Instead, he saw the three Asgard siblings studying the giant man lying on the ground. For the love of Odin! Is this thing really human? I've never heard of a Midgard human growing to this height. My dear brother, if you have no experience, don't show it by shouting. It's really Master Suo who came to New York City. Look at how ignorant you are. Shut up, both of you. Have you forgotten what I just taught you? Hela at the moment looks neither like a goddess nor an elder sister, but an iron-blooded commander who is teaching his young soldiers how to deal with various enemies encountered in the space war. When facing an enemy with too strong defense and endurance, either accumulate enough strength and use all your strength to launch an attack that exceeds the opponent's defense, in order to break through the enemy with just 1 point. Or use the advantages of speed and magic to focus on weak organs. Once you are on the battlefield, don't think you are a god. Hela's teachings can be said to be strict and effective. Loki has been taught by Hela in this state for nearly a month, and now he is naturally used to it. But Thor had just recognized his father and was clearly not beaten enough. He actually stiffened his neck and retorted, "What you said is not true, elder sister. Didn't you call yourself the goddess of death when you hit me?" But this question was taken over by Li Chengfeng. Nonsense, when your sister beat you up, she didn't even think of it as going to the battlefield. That's domestic violence. Wouldn't it be necessary to bring out the name of the goddess of death to suppress you? Thor was so frustrated by Li Chengfeng's words that he wanted to say something several times, but finally gave up. Odin is above. It's fine that he can't beat his elder sister who is 1,000 years older than him, but this so-called FBI agent from Midgard himself doesn't seem to be a match for him either. Plus, he's been imprisoned for so long by some powerful dimensional Mephisto. Midgard's tricks are too complicated, and he wants to go back to Asgard. It's not that I'm afraid, I just miss my mother Frigga. Loki chuckled. He was very familiar with Thor's expression. Now Thor's 3 views have been completely shattered by repeated beatings and then rebuilt on the ruins. I had the same expression when I was beaten. Loki actually has a secret about this matter, which even Li Chengfeng doesn't know. Li Chengfeng only knew that he was knocked away by the big guy from Kansas and was finally captured alive by the Doctor of Doom in a green robe. But he didn't know that he had received more than just these 2 beatings. The big Kansas guy's punch sent him straight from the Mets to New York. If this was the iron fist of physics, then the one I experienced in New York was a magical explosion. He free fell for an hour before being dropped in Latveria. Thinking of this, Loki felt all the hairs on his body stand up. He must become stronger. Even if he wants to live a good life on Earth, he has to change this passive situation where he is beaten wherever he goes. But with Thor's brain, he just needs to figure it out slowly, haha. So this body on the ground is the body you abandoned before? Li Chengfeng asked Dr. Liang. That's right. I was originally just a thin man who wasn't very tall. I didn't expect that the power of the Juggernaut could make a person so strong and sturdy. If I had known, I would have tried it. I've never experienced a body that's strong to this extent. Li Chengfeng frowned. It wasn't because he had any opinion about Dr. Liang, but he felt that the face under Juggernaut's helmet looked familiar. Isn't that right? How could Juggernaut collapse from exhaustion? Hela, what happened to him? Why is he lying here incapable of fighting? What's going on? It seems that you have solved the source of the Scarlet Strange power, and you have successfully controlled it. Hela looked at Li Chengfeng, who had changed color, with some surprise. I can feel that at that moment, the distortion of this space disappeared instantly, and then this thing calling itself Sidorak lost the power of level Godfather, leaving behind a sentence fun time is over, and then it became what it is now. Li Chengfeng nodded. Because Juggernaut's original soul was occupied and destroyed by a trace of Sidorak's consciousness, and because of Sidorak's departure, it completely became an empty shell. The only reason he didn't return to his original form was because he was still wearing the same armor as Sidorak. So, dear Queen of Gods, you haven't answered me yet. Did something strange happen to your Green Lantern ring, or did you find a ring of another color? My God King, please allow me to introduce you to this red light that controls the red of rage. Li Chengfeng raised the lamp forward in a pretentious tone, and then nothing happened. Clam. Li Chengfeng was stunned for a moment. Had he been making the wrong judgment all along? The red light stove was placed in front of Hela, but there was no reaction at all. Shouldn't it be? Generally speaking, he was treated as the crown prince, marshal, or even a comrade in arms by his own father for thousands of years, and then was betrayed by his father and sealed in Midgard for thousands of years. Is it not an exaggeration to say that I feel tremendous hatred? You know, there's a character with a similar positioning in a certain FG universe. That guy made his dad sit on the golden toilet all his life and couldn't get off, and he could only play with that crappy talker every day to kill time. But why is he not reacting at all in front of Hela? But Li Chengfeng is not the kind of idiot who starts to get stuck on something just because he can't understand it. He firmly believed in one sentence. Nothing is difficult in the world as long as you are willing to give up. Nothing to say. Instead, his attention was immediately drawn to the empty shell of the Juggernaut on the ground. Even though its face had become somewhat distorted after expanding to more than 4 meters in height, it was inexplicably familiar. Li Chengfeng stretched out his hand to take off Juggernaut's iconic semicircular helmet, but he didn't expect that the last trace of red light on the empty shell was absorbed by the red lantern ring. Then, the armor turned into dust, and the swollen and distorted body returned to its original state. Li Chengfeng wiped his face. Good job. Isn't this the tea bag that I mentioned several times before the mission started? What world lines converge? It starts with complaining about teabag and ends with complaining about teabag. And what does this have to do with jailbreaking? Oh yes, it really does. This big stupid guy Thor really escaped from prison. Ding, the mission Prison Break, brother has been completed. Quest-related characters, Captain Cold, Heatwave, Constantine, Thor, Juggernaut, Teabag. Obtain Captain Cold's genius-level mechanical engineering expertise. Get the literary foundation of Heatwave. Obtain Constantine's traditional black magic. Get Thor's controlling thunder and lightning. Obtain Juggernaut's unstoppable power. Chapter 71. MD, you are really amazing in the dog system. If this dog system had a physical body, Li Chengfeng would definitely let it know what pain is. Doing this kind of sweet yet smelly shitty work every day, I really don't know if it's because he's just too unlucky, or if the creator of this system is too disgusting. Captain Cold's genius-level performance in mechanical engineering is truly amazing, mainly because he is not one of the rich people relying on technology, he is a person who relies on various handcrafted and black tech modifications. There's an inexplicable sense of déjà vu of goblin technology. And Heatwave really isn't anything to write home about, but isn't this literary foundation a bit too abstract? Definitely. If Heatwave in Legends of Tomorrow is any guide, then he is truly a genius-level romantic novel writer. His pen name is Rebecca Silver, and he is so popular that he even returns to the main timeline to hold book signings. But, what does Li Chengfeng want this thing for? This is a comic book universe. This isn't a plagiarism universe. As for Constantine's black magic, I didn't think it was that powerful, but after Li Chengfeng initially mastered it, he discovered its real advantages. Versatility. Theoretically, no matter what Li Chengfeng does, he can use black magic to assist him. But the prerequisite is that Li Chengfeng can tolerate those inexplicably disgusting spellcasting media. When I think of the eyeballs and broken legs in the drama. Ugh. Only someone like Constantine can bear it. And what comes next is the fragrance in the mixture of fragrant and stinky. Thor controlling thunder and lightning. It does not refer to his original divine power related to thunder and lightning, but to his control over thunder and lightning in nature. Although it is an ability borrowed from Thor, if you look at its performance, it is more like Storm's ability. But no matter what, so cool. How can an ability related to lightning not be cool? Being handsome or not is a matter of a lifetime. The last one is the most valuable ability this time, the embodiment of unstoppable power. This ability from Juggernaut provides neither a bonus to strength nor a bonus to energy. Described as a juggernaut that moves in a certain direction, making it nearly impossible to stop its motion. Does it look a bit abstract? Let me put it another way and it will make sense. As long as you start exercising, you are basically free from control. Do you know about BKB? However, if this ability is applied to Juggernaut, once he sprints forward, he cannot be stopped. Li? Are you listening? Li? Captain, if you hear me, please reply. At this time, Sky and Ingrid's voices were heard again from the communicator which had just been filled with noise. After Li Chengfeng completely severed the connection between the Crimson Ruby and Sidorak, the energy was completely absorbed by the red light furnace, and the space distortion caused in the vicinity has returned to normal. The communicator naturally operated normally. Li Chengfeng received it. The mission has been completely accomplished. That's good. Just now, all the electronic products in the Fox River prison failed. Only just now did the communicator return to normal. Sky explained the situation to Li Chengfeng. But those inside the Fox River prison are all civilian products. They are completely broken. So what happened? This is a long story. You will receive a mission report. Li Chengfeng said, and opened the portal. By the way, remember to tell Phil Coulson and the others to bring people to clean up the mess. Li Chengfeng looked at the big hole in the prison wall and the bumpy ground in front of the warden's building. He now feels that the most important thing is to recruit a science-approaching team, which is specifically responsible for whitewashing and deceiving people who should not know the truth. Back at the FBI headquarters, the team members on standby came towards us. The most reliable Ada Wong has temporarily detained Captain Cold, Heatwave and Constantine in the square cabin prison built by the FBI for those with super abilities. Everyone can live in a single room and the treatment is good. After listening to Ada Wong's report, Li Chengfeng nodded, then gently pushed Dr. Liang, who had been standing on his right, forward. This is Jack Bright, you can call him Dr. Liang. From today on, he will officially join the FBI and become a member of the Internal Affairs team. By the way, Ada. Li Chengfeng raised his chin towards Ada Wong, use my terminal to send a full band pinned message in the FBI system. Okay, what do you want to send? As King Ada spoke, he took out Li Chengfeng's personal terminal from his body. That's right, apart from Li Chengfeng himself, most of his things were with the girls. For example, the mobile phone became Hella's toy, the activation key of the Quinjet was kept by Harley Quinn, and all office supplies were in Ada Wong's hands. His high-level FBI authority is simply reserved for Ada Wong. No one is allowed to touch Dr. Liang's pendant, also known as Dr. Jack Bright. Li Chengfeng said this and glanced at Dr. Liang again. You two, don't be so ostentatious, put the pendant inside your clothes. It's a bit uncomfortable to put it in the clothes. Are you going to let it go? Or do you want another seat under the trench? Come on, you're awesome. Facing Li Chengfeng's oppressive gaze, Dr. Liang could only cooperate helplessly. So am I one of yours now? Our own people, not completely. In fact, Li Chengfeng still doesn't know why Dr. Liang came to the real universe. Is there another purpose, or is it simply seeking profit and avoiding harm? Therefore, it is safest to keep it under your nose. And regardless of his purpose and personality, Dr. Liang is an expert in bioengineering and abnormal genes. The X-Men captured and brainwashed a group of Hydra scientists who specialized in studying the X gene from Latveria, and encountered a big bottleneck in studying how to catalyze the X gene and enhance strength. If Dr. Liang joins in, he might become a key figure in opening up the situation. Okay, then I'll try my best to be one of our own. So when do I start working? What's the salary? Dr. Liang, who has a very flexible bottom line and a bit of a funny personality, got into the role very quickly. The most important thing is your cafeteria delicious? Let me tell you, I hate the cafeteria of the Foundation. The taste is so bad that at one point the entire site relied on SCP-458 infinite pizza boxes to solve lunch. You can rest assured about the salary. The FBI has never been stingy with high-level talents. It's just that it's hard to get extra funds. I mean, it's hard to approve them. As for the cafeteria, just be careful not to go to the Hyuxia food window. Damn it, America's Hyuxia food is a scam. Chapter 72. After deciding whether Dr. Liang should stay or go and the strict monitoring and containment measures for Dr. Liang, Li Chengfeng disbanded the team. Although Wanda and Pietro had joined the FBI for a month, they were not in good condition at the time, so they moved directly into Li Chengfeng's house. Ada Wong simply took the two curious babies and Dr. Liang to visit the FBI headquarters. Even at night, various departments of the FBI continue to operate normally. As Thor was too naive, Hela and Loki decided to take him to experience the unique delicacies of Midgard, definitely using Li Chengfeng's card. As everyone dispersed, only an unusually calm Harley Quinn was left beside Li Chengfeng. What's wrong, Harley? Li Chengfeng asked Harley as he walked into the elevator. You are a little too quiet today. This is not like Harley Quinn at all. Oh, my pudding, even a brilliant lunatic like me has a few days every month when he gets tired of the day-to-day madness and begins to long for the ordinary. Li Chengfeng translated this sentence in his mind. Oh. My period is here. Press the button for the negative fifth floor, which is the prison where the FBI holds super-ability criminals. Li Chengfeng and Harley Quinn stood side by side in the elevator. When the elevator door was about to close, Harley Quinn pounced on Li Chengfeng and began to bite him. Then the floors start from 1 and finally until it becomes -5. Bite. The elevator door opened again, and Li Chengfeng pretended to be calm as he wiped the lipstick marks on his right cheek, and took off the Harley Quinn hanging on him. I simply gave up on my neck, which means I have strong enough physique, otherwise my neck would definitely be covered with strawberries. So after all this fuss, it's not that my period has come, but that I'm completely unable to hold it back. Since Harley Quinn transferred her affection from Joker to Li Chengfeng, this is the first time they have been apart for more than 24 hours. The series of brutal kisses just now scared Li Chengfeng. Definitely, it feels great too. Although Harley's mental state is not very good, her face is indeed beautiful. Moreover, the movements were much faster. The moment the opponent pounced, Li Chengfeng suddenly felt the amazing elasticity of the opponent. In other words, there were surveillance cameras in the elevator, otherwise Li Chengfeng would seriously doubt that his chastity might be in jeopardy. Woohoo, pudding energy is fully replenished. You have completed your supplement. Tomorrow the Ministry of Internal Affairs will send a report about my work style to the desk of that black salted egg. Are you afraid? Are you afraid of Internal Affairs or Nick Fury? Are you crazy? Oh, you are indeed crazy. Then let's give one last kiss while no one is around, mmmmm. Li Chengfeng finally couldn't resist the temptation of the little crazy girl and pushed her against the wall. Lips and teeth touch each other. He is indeed a virgin, but he is not a fool. When the meat is really in your mouth, you will eat it without hesitation. And he hadn't seen this little lunatic for nearly a month. To be honest, miss her a little. Only. Bloody hell, you FBI can be so creative. Is it too late for me to join now? Just shut up, you British magical BD. They let someone like you join the FBI? Unless the brains of the FBI people have been gnawed by zombies. It turns out that kissing can have this kind of atmosphere. This is another accumulation of material. 3 teasing voices sounded one after another. They were the 3 bastards arrested by Li Chengfeng. Constantine, Captain Cold, and Heatwave. When Li Chengfeng and Harley Quinn just got out of the elevator, their attention was on each other, so they didn't notice that the square cabin prison where they were held was not far away. Listening to them teasing them from time to time, the 2 shameless guys Li Chengfeng and Harley Quinn didn't care at all. Instead, he stared at the 3 people. Until they realized that the atmosphere was not right, they fell silent. You've all calmed down, right? Li Chengfeng curled his lips. It seems like you don't quite understand your situation. You don't think I just want to imprison you temporarily, do you? Well, what else can we do? Even the FBI has to abide by the basic law. FK the basic law, snart. Li Chengfeng walked to the prison door of Captain Cold and said with a sly smile, from today on, all criminals with super abilities and special skills will be detained by the FBI. Believe me, I have enough authority to do this. Li Chengfeng couldn't help laughing when he thought about putting super criminals in ordinary prisons. The person who did this is a real genius. Before the 3 could react, Li Chengfeng suddenly retreated and turned around. Who are you? Get out right now. It was quiet all around. Not only Constantine and the other 2 were puzzled by Li Chengfeng's behavior, even the crazy Harley Quinn was a little confused. But Li Chengfeng ignored them. Instead, he pointed at the corner and threatened, I'm only going to count to 3. Those 6 people in the corner, get out of here. Don't make me say it a second time. Suddenly, a voice was heard coming from a corner that seemed empty to the naked eye. Hey, hey, hey. Li. Don't turn into a white lantern, and don't banish us to the dark dimension. Damn it. Stark, at this time when Li he wasn't a white lantern yet, and he hadn't become Sorcerer Supreme yet. Oh my god, won't my saying this affect the timeline? The timeline isn't that fragile, but you better watch your big mouth. Okay, okay. I'm really defeated by you, Professor Stein. After a distortion of light and shadow, a group of people in different clothes appeared in the corner. Leading the group was a sexy blonde beauty wearing a neat and tight white battlesuit. Long time no see, Li. Who are you? And how did you get into the FBI headquarters? My fault. We always forget that you are not who we know you to be. The blonde beauty nodded apologetically. I am Sarah Lance, a level 5 agent of the FBI, codenamed White Canary, and I am affiliated with the FBI's Special Team Legends. Legendary Squad. Li Chengfeng's eyes gradually widened. What the hell? How did the Legends team become a special team of the FBI? Isn't this ridiculous? The FBI doesn't have such a team. Harley Quinn asked with a frown, even though I'm crazy, this is no reason for you to fool me. Sarah Lance shook her head and replied, the current FBI definitely doesn't have one, and that's because we're from the future. And the reason why we traveled through time to the present FBI and met you is because you in the future left us a mission. Agent Li Chengfeng, Acting Director of the America General Bureau. Chapter 73. Li Chengfeng admitted that he was really confused at first. But it was not because of the other party's identity. Although there were several unfamiliar faces on the opposite side, Li Chengfeng still recognized Sarah Lance's face. So I guessed it was the legendary team right away. What confused him was the origin of the legendary team. With Sarah Lance's explanation, Li Chengfeng gradually understood everything. First, he formed a legendary team in the future and selected talents from various places in the timeline to join it. Sarah Lance, White Canary, the sister of Oliver Queen's ex-girlfriend, was thought to have died in a shipwreck, but was actually rescued and trained by the League of Assassins. Martin Stein, top nuclear scientist, physicist, inventor of the Firestorm Matrix, Jefferson Jackson, responsible for spacecraft maintenance. The two can then combine into Firestorm. And then there is Adam Ray Palmer. Apart from the people who were supposed to be in the legendary team, Li Chengfeng really didn't recognize the other two. It was only through Sarah Lance's introduction that I suddenly realized it. First, there was the guy who was called Stark at the beginning. His full name was Howard Stark. Yes, he is Tony Stark's biological father. He was taken away by the Legends when they were being hunted by the Winter Soldier. This device that achieves invisibility through optical distortion is his work. And when she introduced the woman who had remained silent, she spoke up and interrupted Sarah Lance. The language used is the Republic language. Li Chengfeng, my name is Wu Fengji. Are you from the Republic? Your last name is Wu. Wu Fengji. Li Chengfeng didn't react at first. Isn't Wu Fengji the trademark White Phoenix? The White Phoenix is stronger than the crazy Dark Phoenix Jean Grey. And it is the strongest Iron Fist ever. But the shock was only for a moment. The Wu Fengji in front of him obviously only had the dragon power that belonged to Iron Fist. That's right. If you become a White Phoenix, you will most likely have to leave the Earth. Let me summarize. In your timeline, I was the acting director. Where is Nick Fury? I really can't reveal too much. I can only say that director Nick Fury is alive and well. On the contrary, you disappeared completely after officially announcing the establishment of the legendary squad and specifying the target. Li Chengfeng nodded. He still had to maintain due respect for the timeline. Those who played with time would eventually be played with by time, unless he used the Ion Man transformation to directly manipulate time originally. So, I asked you to come to this time to recruit members, right? That's right. You said that there are only 3 people in the FBI's prison at this time, and they are all suitable candidates to board the Wave Rider. Li Chengfeng turned around and looked at the 3 people in the prison who were completely confused. To be honest, these 3 people are indeed the original members of the legendary team. But the style of this recruitment is too biased. Which good person would go to his own prison to recruit people? But then again, the legendary squad actually does have some meaning of time labor reform. But this can be considered as a way of making use of waste. Otherwise, what would be the point of locking these 3 guys up here? It's useless except for wasting the FBI's food. It would be nice to let them contribute to protecting the timeline, just as a substitute for operating the sewing machine. Since it's my own decision, then take them away. You just believe it. Why doesn't he believe it? Harley Quinn shrugged and spread her hands towards Li Chengfeng. It sounds like this is something this guy would do. Outside the prison, Li Chengfeng and Sarah Lance quickly reached a consensus. Constantine, Captain Cold, and Heatwave were handed over to the Legends squad. Before they left, Sarah Lance seemed to have just remembered something. By the way, Li, go to the combat training room on the 12th floor now. You will meet an unexpected person. Ah. This character specifically asked you to come to this timeline, and you agreed. Won't this cause fluctuations in the timeline? The timeline is much more solid than you think. You taught me this, teacher. Teacher? You call me teacher. Although I only call you teacher, but, you are the closest thing to a father in my life. We from the FBI all like this line, right? Li Chengfeng waved his hand and bid farewell to his future disciple and daughter, but he still couldn't help but complain. He clearly remembered that Black Braised Egg had said this. If nothing unexpected happens, Phil Coulson will say the same thing to Sky in the future. So my future self will follow the same pattern, right? This line of dialogue runs through 3 generations of the FBI, spanning from the past to the future. Really 6? Wow, she said you are her dad. You learned this ability to summarize from a host named Zhu Mingdan, right? Don't say so much useless things. This is time travel. Tie pants hot. It's not cool, most of the time you have to wait in the time buffer. You can imagine that there is endless green space around you, similar to the universe without day and night. That's no different from being in Arkham. You can't tell the difference between day and night in the ward. But who cares? Let's go. Didn't your daughter say that an unexpected person would appear in the training room? After the excited Harley Quinn finished speaking, she jumped onto Li Chengfeng's back and pinched his butt. Hurry up, hurry up. Go to the training room. Li Chengfeng was reluctant to let her go, so he could only carry this crazy lady on his back into the elevator. I feel like there will be more and more letters reporting on work-style issues tomorrow. Arriving at the training room on the 12th floor, Li Chengfeng put Harley Quinn down. Then he checked his collar to make sure the ambiguous mark on his neck would not be exposed. He pushed open the door of the training room and walked in. I saw that the huge amounts of sandbags were being attacked by continuous heavy punches. The speed was so fast and the power was so terrifying that it was definitely beyond the limits of ordinary people. His long brown hair fluttered with his movements. He was wearing simple jeans and a white shirt. His ordinary attire concealed a well-trained and strong body. A bang sound was heard. The sandbag, which was more than a person's height, finally couldn't bear the weight and was knocked away by a punch. Fine sand was scattered all over the ground. Li Chengfeng and Harley Quinn walked forward, and the other party immediately noticed them, but was not surprised. Instead, he picked up the leather storage bag leaning against the wall and walked towards them. The shape looks like a shield? When he walked up to her, Li Chengfeng realized that the woman was almost as tall as him. You in the future told me that if one day I finish my mission and don't know where to go, you can choose to come to this timeline. Introduce yourself. My name is Peggy Carter, you can also call me Captain Carter. Chapter 74. The next day, early morning. Nick Fury hummed the West Coast Alvin and the Chipmunks tune as he drove to the headquarters in Washington, D.C. He is in a pretty good mood today. To be precise, his mood has been getting better and better since Li Chengfeng came. Even my paranoia is almost gone. He felt that seconding Li Chengfeng from the Republic was the wisest decision he had ever made in his life. Think about the current situation of the American Bureau of Investigation, vellay. Professor X took over the FBI Academy and sat in the rear of the FBI. He himself was in charge of the overall situation, while Li Chengfeng and Phil Coulson led the charge. Perfect. The only problem is that this little monster Li Chengfeng is causing bigger and bigger troubles each time, and the thighs he has won over are stronger and stronger. Just Shen brought back 2 in total. Oh, no, according to the mission briefing sent to the terminal last night, the brother of the goddess of death and the god of trickery was also abducted by him. Tisk, the most urgent thing is to transform the energy detector at the headquarters. The monitoring room flashes every day like a white lightning, which is too dazzling. When Nick Fury thought of this, he had already driven into the parking lot of the FBI headquarters. After parking in his own dedicated parking space, he locked the car and left. When he arrived at the headquarters lobby, a man not far away immediately walked towards him. Director Nick Fury. How have you been these past few days, May? Aside from having to take care of a whole team of brats, it's not bad. Isn't Steve Rogers on the team too? A World War II veteran who has been frozen in the Arctic ice for decades is not as easy to deal with as those little devils when he comes into contact with modern society. Melinda May's expression barely changed when she said these words, but one could still see a hint of resentment in her. Nick Fury looked at one of his trusted agents and did not continue asking questions, but turned to another question. By the way, Phil Coulson, how's everything going? Completing missions, formulating training plans, and investigating the intelligence dealer known as Acute Eyes, it's been very busy and fulfilling. He hasn't had time to dwell on his own resurrection for a long time. Very good. Remember, don't mention the Tahiti project to him, and don't provoke him to find the truth. This is the best protection we can give him. Nick Fury couldn't help but sigh when he thought of the Tahiti project. GH325 made from the blood of the Blue Man, Nick Fury doesn't know the name of the Kree, can save FBI agents who are seriously injured, dying, or even recently dead. Originally thought to be a miracle drug from heaven, but ultimately discovered to be a deal with the devil. After being resurrected using GH325, people will be very normal at first, but after a period of time, their mental condition will begin to deteriorate, and complications such as hypergraphia, aphasia, and catatonia will appear. People with poor psychological quality may even turn into lunatics. Eventually they chose to erase and replace their memories, but the pain of replacing their memories through surgery was 3 times more horrible than death. At the end of the Tahiti project, some people committed suicide, while others went crazy. Have you ever confessed to Agent Li Chengfeng about the Tahiti project? Li. Nick Fury was stunned for a moment and looked at Melinda May. Why do you mention Li? This matter has already passed, is there any need for him to know? It's time to change your suspicious personality. Melinda May was not afraid of the director. After all, she was trained by Peggy Carter herself. Even in the FBI with so many abilities, Agent Li Chengfeng is the strongest one among them. Not only does he have multiple abilities, but he is also constantly discovering new abilities. He may not be able to solve the sequelae of the Tahiti project. Although it hasn't happened to Phil Coulson yet, it's only a matter of time. You care about Phil Coulson more than I thought. Nick Fury pressed the elevator switch and walked in with Melinda May. Sir, I just have no expression since I was a child, not that I have no emotions. Melinda May stood astride Nick Fury's left rear with her hands behind her back. But Phil Coulson always fails to express his feelings when he should, like a piece of wood that cannot be touched by oil or salt. Nick Fury smiled and began to reminisce about the past with May. To be honest, the fact that you two are not dating is the most surprising thing in my life. Melinda May glanced at the back of Nick Fury's head and said calmly, he is a person who passively accepts feelings and will never learn to take the initiative. Otherwise, I would not have agreed to Andrew's proposal. So men, don't be too passive, just like you can't wait for Agent Li Chengfeng to discover the problem with Phil Coulson before confessing to him. You're back again. I've always been first in debate and language logic tests. I just don't have much expression. Nick Fury rolled his eyes, but luckily the elevator had reached the floor where the office was located. Bite. Following the elevator prompt sound, the elevator door opened immediately. Nick Fury and Melinda May walked out one after the other. But in his office, he saw a man and a woman sitting at a desk and on a sofa respectively, chatting happily. Nick Fury pushed open the door and asked the guy sitting at the table unhappily, Li Chengfeng. You don't want to sit on the sofa or the chair, but you have to sit on my desk. The person sitting on Nick Fury's desk is definitely Li Chengfeng. Who else has the courage to do this? Hella did, but she wasn't interested. Oh, Fury, you're here. Li Chengfeng lightly jumped up and landed on the ground with a front flip. And May? That's great. Let me introduce you to a new friend. Li Chengfeng said this and pointed at the brown-haired woman sitting on the sofa. At the moment the woman with her back to the door stood up and turned to face Nick Fury and Melinda May. Then, the expressions of both people were petrified. Hello, Nick Fury and Melinda May? In this timeline, Melinda May became an FBI agent instead of a Supreme Court judge. You are. Nick Fury rubbed his single eye and looked forward again. Is he dazzled? Even Nick Fury, the king of FBI agents, the big black salted egg who could make plans and win battles thousands of miles away, was stuttering so much that he couldn't utter a complete sentence. Oh, look at my brain. I was a little excited to see someone familiar, so I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Peggy Carter, but not your Peggy Carter to be exact. You can call me Captain Carter. Li Chengfeng looked at Nick Fury and Melinda May who were completely confused, and laughed while slapping the table. Aren't you a leader? I'll get your leader here. See if you dare not approve funding for me. Chapter 75. Li Chengfeng, you are really the devil in my life. Hey, thanks for the compliment. Humph. But even if it's Peggy Carter, so what? She's not Director Carter from my timeline anyway. What should I be afraid of? You are so arrogant when you say this. Li Chengfeng poked the black braised egg's waist with his arm, then why don't you dare to sit down? What's wrong? Are you feeling guilty? You're the one feeling guilty. Your whole family feels guilty. I'm showing my respect and reverence to a World War II hero and super soldier from another timeline. FK. You're the leader, but you don't show any hesitation when you flatter your superiors. Why didn't you do the same when you were with Pierce? Nonsense. Alexander Pierce is not even a hair's worth of Peggy Carter. Li Chengfeng gave a thumbs up to the black braised egg. Otherwise, he deserves to be a leader. Just for this flexible bottom line and virtual moral integrity, the position of director must be his. Peggy Carter sat beside them with a calm and composed look. Captain America in the real universe was frozen in the Arctic ice for more than half a century. Although he is old, his mental age is actually still that of a young man. But Captain Carter is different. She has lived from World War II to the present, and has even experienced a series of adventures from the Earth to the universe and even to various timelines. This is a true elder and wise man. Li Chengfeng sincerely wanted to say thank you to his future self for giving him such a stabilizing force. By the way, Captain Carter, we talked about joining the FBI yesterday. Didn't we already talk about this? That's true, but I hope you can take on the position of Commander-in-Chief, and I'm just the captain of a special team. I don't have the final say on this position. Li Chengfeng laughed, his face full of sincerity. But when Captain Carter heard him say this, he immediately retorted, I've never been the Commander-in-Chief you mentioned, Captain Carter said, spreading his hands. I've always been the one charging in the front. There's nothing wrong with me commanding local battles, but the FBI Commander-in-Chief is more about controlling the overall situation. I'm very interested in the special team you mentioned. This. Li Chengfeng was a little embarrassed when he heard this. Who could have thought that this man was still thinking about charging into battle and risking his life? So he cast a few glances at Nick Fury, signaling him, the one who would make the final decision, to say a few words. Yet. Although there is no good candidate for the Commander-in-Chief except Captain Carter, we are a free country, so we still have to base it on personal wishes. We can discuss the Commander-in-Chief later. Agent Li Chengfeng, Captain Carter will be assigned to the Star Team first. Don't forget to go to the Internal Affairs Department to get a set of documents. Nick Fury looked at Li Chengfeng's resentful eyes and couldn't help but laugh awkwardly. There was no way. Although he had been in power for many years, seeing Peggy Carter's face would still remind him of the time when he was just an ordinary agent. The accumulated power is too great. He really couldn't bring himself to refute in front of that face. And then there is. Being able to fight on the front line has always been Peggy Carter's wish in the real universe, but her age and seniority have pushed her to a high position and she can only sit in the back. Since Captain Carter is the owner of the Super Soldier Serum, let her replace the old man who has been constantly up and down in chaos and sobriety to fulfill his dream. Not bad. Seeing that Nick Fury shared the same opinion, Li Chengfeng didn't know what to say. It would be great to have such a professional veteran agent join his star team. After finishing the business, Li Chengfeng left Captain Carter at the FBI headquarters and left. Because it seems that Nick Fury and Melinda may still have a lot to say to Captain Carter. Just as Li Chengfeng left Nick Fury's office, the old phone he had exchanged for the latest model from Hella rang a few times. 3 text messages came in succession from different numbers. Li Chengfeng clicked with his fingers and opened the first one. The first was a text message from Bruce Wayne. Ever since Li Chengfeng met Bruce Wayne, he often asked him to help him find some things through his wealthy business channels, such as interrogation crystal. But while reading this text message, he also felt a pang of pain in his heart. Those 2 interrogation crystals cost him nearly $3 million. As expected, the issue of wasting funds must not be stopped. Then he opened the second text message. The content is also very simple. It's all done. Li Chengfeng nodded. Grant Ward is truly a professional killer, his efficiency is extremely high. He took out Agent Sitwell, who held important positions in both the FBI and Hydra, without anyone noticing. The word both indicates that he also took out a group of American politicians who were in cahoots with Hydra. And most importantly, no relevant information was revealed, which means that the deaths of these people have not been discovered yet. At least in terms of assassination techniques, this scumbag is far superior to Beiji Barnes, who made it so that Winter Soldier's nearly invincible assassination and infiltration level exists almost only in the settings. But, this is not enough for Li Chengfeng to let him go. He did promise Grant Ward to spare his life, but the others did not agree. Feeling good about the plan going smoothly, Li Chengfeng clicked on the third text message. It was a text message from that narcissist Tony Stark. Judging from his tone, this should be a piece of information with no nutritional value. But when he turned down, Li Chengfeng's eyes suddenly widened. FK Tony Stark. You're such a good brother to me. You're here to give me a pillow when I'm sleepy. Ha ha ha. Li Chengfeng didn't expect that Tony Stark would give him such a big gift at this time. The text message also expressed the desire to meet and get together. Li Chengfeng's Quinjet was sent for routine maintenance, and it was not worth it for him to fly the Airbus alone. So Li Chengfeng went back to Nick Fury's office, facing the gazes of 5 eyes, and touched Nick Fury all over. Touch the car keys and run. Will you die if you buy a car yourself? I don't have a driver's license. Li Chengfeng showed Nick Fury a confident and determined expression and left the headquarters in a flash. Even the worldly wise Peggy Carter felt that this strange way of interaction between superiors and subordinates was out of place. The middle-aged Li Chengfeng she met in other timelines was a man who was calm, serious in everything he said and did. How come this guy was so lewd when he was young? If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you're notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.